Good and fair evening, my friends. Welcome back to the tavern. I apologize for being so late. If I weren't cold, step outside. It's 29 and falling. We've been stuck in the 60s here, and we're supposed to get back up into the 70s next week. All things I am not particularly excited about. I would prefer consistent, colder, rainy weather. Erin said my name 3 times and I showed up. Well, it could happen. I have been known to be followed through closets by goblins. Tyson, hello. Milu, hello. Matty, hello. Kova, hello. Beard. Frost, hello. Destiny, hello. Good to see you all. Welcome in. I saw that Teresa was in and So Talk was in. Oh, hello, my friends. I'm so glad to see you all. Esther, good evening. Clau, hello, welcome in. Tonight is our family-friendly night, and we are reading Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. We haven't read in a few weeks, so I don't actually remember where we are, so give me a moment, and we'll get that brought up. We're almost halfway through the book, though. We're getting very far in. Bear is probably watching cricket. That's entirely possible. I know he doesn't like to miss story time unless it's something very important. So, if he's missing, then that means that whatever cricket game is on is a very important one. Let's see. So, when we last left our heroes, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they had just snuck into the Ministry of Magic under guise of being employees at the Ministry. And they were on their way out rescuing some Muggleborns. And now, you know what? Hang on. We've got the wrong, let's see. There we go. We had the wrong background up. There we are. Gunnar, hello, my friend Quirt. Good to see you. Hello all, and hello to Council. Hope you're all doing well and keeping warm. Keeping as warm as can be expected. I'm, Jessica, hello, good to see you. Welcome in. Gather round, friends. Grab your seats, fill your drinks. It's story time. Just getting settled in here, quickly. Teresa, we're doing quite well. It's been a busy week so far. It's just started. Zinomi, hello. You're on a Friday? Well, is it Friday? No, today's Thursday, isn't it? Don't mess with me, Zinomi. Yeah, it's Thursday. It's Thursday, December 4th, right there. See? Thursday, December 4th. Oh, it is Friday in Australia. That's true. It is Friday morning in Australia. That's correct. Well, Sonomi, did you forget what day it was? I don't think you're in. Sonomi, where are you? Are you in Australia or New Zealand? I know we have a few Kiwis and a few Aussies quite a few Aussies actually, who are always here in the tavern. It's a full moon here. It's beautiful. I can only imagine. I guess it would be afternoon, huh? Because we usually start right around like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. 1:21 p.m. in Australia. Well, see, there you go. Never worry about the world ending today. It's already tomorrow in Australia. See, there you go. This week is truly wild. Got back from visiting my brother in Arizona and it's snowing in Massachusetts. See, I would again. I say this every time. There's no limit to the number of things I would toss into a volcano to get some snow. Olivia came over today and she was happy with hugs and birthday wishes from the Black Dragon Tavern. Absolutely. Why is it? Hang on. I have to go and discipline an animal. I'm so sorry I'm born from the USA. Don't need to apologize for that. Sonomi, what are you? Okay, I think I understand. I am, I am, I live in the United States. I've lived in the United States for 2 decades. I grew up in Ireland. Well, I guess I should say grew up in Ireland and Norway. But I grew up in Ireland. But I live in the US. So, while some countries are experiencing snowfall, Tasmania has suffered significant property damage from wildfires. Well, that's certainly not what you want this time of year. Lots of places closed yesterday due to snow. Work let us out early, took an hour to get home. That's a lot of snow. Mike! How's it going? How you been? All ready for the holidays? Bear with me, I'm happy. That's quite alright. That's quite alright. Good, I'm glad to hear it. You guys all ready for story time? Let's get our friends over on Twitch through their initial ad run, and then we'll power through to getting story time started. I'll do a recap for everybody. Molly Sue, hello. We're gonna do our initial ads so you guys can have an hour without them over on Twitch. And then I'll do a recap of where we were in the story, and then we'll get started. So here we go. I can confirm the zombie apocalypse has begun in my story. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot the raid horn. I'm sorry, Matty. I've had so much stuff going on today, that I'm swearing. There you go. 3, 2, 1. I have to go to bed. Just wanted to say hi. Be well. You as well, Mike. Sorry, I blew a horn in your ear just before bed. I'm glad you stopped in. I hope you've been well, and if you've been able to stop by the tavern, I hope you've been enjoying the stories. OCR Street. We get so much spam. I don't know if that is spam, but we get so much spam over on Kick. It's insane. I had a bunch of spam accounts that followed me, and then when I timed them all out and put it all in emote only, it's Viking Raspberries. Okay, Viking Raspberries, but hello, it's good to see you. You ever just walk around at night blowing the raid horn for fun? Seems like it would be a great time. Never at regular times. That's alright. I've been doing this long enough that my brain just automatically reads chat speak. Because that's really what it is. Like when you're in a chat and you're typing really quickly, that's what it is. You just like, oh, go. If you read like some of my comments and some of my tweets, sometimes if I'm in a hurry and I'm not, like, I do the exact same thing. And I do this for a living, so I write stories and tell stories and have to worry about words for a living. So I'm not gonna judge anybody else when I do it professionally and I still mess things up. Oh. Fires out of control in Tasmania. I hope they get them handled. I don't know much about the topography of Tasmania, but I do know that if you have wildfires out of control like they did in Australia a few years back, it's definitely not a good thing with all of that open wild area. Gova, my friend, thank you for the 2 months. Enjoy your Wraith Wisp meringues there. some of our seasonal tavern fare. Enjoy. Uh, it's very bad. I would imagine that because I know that the fires in Australia a few years back were really bad, and I imagine Tasmania has a similar topography. So, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Castle, I swear you do those Greek myth videos just to lure me into watching. I don't need to be bribed. Think of it more as a reward. Do you do a Yule log? I was wondering how you do the tradition. So the way that we do Yule logs is not the same as what you would get traditionally. There are a few different ways that it's done regionally, is what the word I kept, my brain wanted to say seasonally. Regionally, there are a few different ways that Yule logs are done. There are the oldest way is just using like a very long. Erin, what is? I don't know what your stream streak is. Nothing's popping up for me right now because everything is not wanting to work like a bastard. Or the old way of doing Yule logs is a little bit different from the more modern way, and then again, it changes depending on where you are. But what we would do is we would oil soak logs and put different types of wood plugs into the log. So different aromas of wood, and you would prepare these logs for a good amount of time, usually like 2 or 3 weeks before they're burned with the family. Sometimes they will give it as gifts, sometimes otherwise. But there are a few different ways you can do it. If you'd like, Mike, I can do a story time on the traditional way of doing Yule logs, just so that there can be some illustration for it. I don't think I've ever actually talked about that. There was currently finishing my Christmas tree setup. I did a mini tree this year. Well, that's lovely, Kayla. You'll have to send pictures. Mr. Not So Brightside, I need a better vocabulary. What are some cool words I can use in normal conversation to mystify people? It depends on what kind of conversation it is. Normal everyday conversations. You're putting me on the spot here. I'm gonna sound very dumb. Lovey, what are some higher tier words that you use on a daily basis that can mystify a plebeian in conversation?
I don't have a good radar for that. It's usually just people ask me, what does that mean?
That's true. I recently had to explain the word obfuscate to several adults who thought I made it up. Obfuscate is a very good word. That's inconsequential is a good word to confuse people. I refuse to believe that inconsequential is confusing people, but I believe that it does. I believe that it does. I have to call my insurance company tomorrow to figure out some some medical stuff, to see if they'll be on. But desperate need of it. So far, that does not sound fun, Bethany, but I presume you're using what the children call sarcasm. If I can't mystify them, I at least want to confuse them with my fancy words. I see. Well, there are a bunch of words that you can use for everyday things. Like you can rather than calling people dumb, you can say that they're being imbecilic. You can say that they're being daft. These are sort of old world words that people don't really use anymore. Oh, sarcasm. I did not know that. See, I've learned something new. Tyson has got an announcement. Fire away. Esther, apparently Twitch thinks you're swearing at me because it keeps censoring whatever it is you're saying. I'm up in Darwin, Esther. I've been replying to your message, but not sure if they've been going through. Daft is crazy work during small talk. It certainly can be. I passed my level 1 technician training assessment. Spectacular, Tyson. Well done. Congratulations, my friend. I learned what to call a useless coworker, Stacey Castle. I mean, yeah, I got a few Irish words that you could use. They're not particularly mystifying. They're just insults. Uh, the one that I use often, that's probably not. Hey, Tim, how's your hand, brother? How's your hand? I can now see why Captain Hook hated Peter Pan. Oh, don't make me laugh when I'm asking you how you're doing after you nearly broke your hand. One of the words that I use quite a bit with the lady is I will say abscond, and that confuses people because it kind of means to run away. It's casted. My knuckles are kaput. Ugh. That is rough. Make sure you take the time and let it heal, because I've had all of these fingers badly damaged and dislocated. Never broke anything, thank the Lord, but I've had a lot of dislocations in my knuckles, and because of that, if I don't stay in good shape and do grip work, I will. My knuckles will be in so much pain. Cheery, yeah, cheery. Gruntled is the opposite of disgruntled. Oh, that's like fuddled. Fuddled is the cohort of befuddled. You can fuddle someone. I mean, I could probably look in this book right here and find you a few words, if we're being honest. See how long it takes me to look through a book written by C.S. Lewis to find a mystifying word. Oh, here we go. Analogous. Analogous is a good word. Of the present moment, and of it only, humans have an experience analogous to the experience which our enemy has of reality as a whole. In it alone, freedom and actuality are offered to them. Yeah, analogous means similar to, at least in a way. I'm a now certified entry-level Subaru technician. That's such good news, Tyson. I'm proud of you, mate. You've been working hard towards that. Very good. Very, very good. See if I can find another one. Suppose endowment might. See, I don't have a good scale for what words are considered to be mystifying. Because the lady and I have grandiose and probably excessive vocabularies. Unnecessary vocabularies, one might even say. Superfluous. I love all the various names I hear for vampires and other undead, but undeadly sounds like something a fifth grader would try and add to a novel. Oh, that's right, Aaron, you do. You do. Mike, I don't know if you're still in, you probably went off to bed, but if you'd like, I can do a story time about Yule logs to give you some illustration about the proper ways, the traditional ways, as well as the way that my family does Yule logs. I called a guy a dotard today on the bus. The guy looked at me with a confused look. I would imagine. Yeah, it's like calling somebody a plebeian or a pedestrian. Most people don't realize that the word pedestrian can be used as an insult because it means simple. It means almost dumbly simple. What's a Yule log? So a Yule log is a traditional part of Yuletide or Christmas. You have a couple of different interpretations of what the Yule log is. The primary thing that Yule log is a scented log that is burned in a fireplace. But you can also have Yule logs that are a part of the Christmas tree. You can also have Yule logs that are cooked. There's a pastry that is called a Yule log. So there's a couple of different things. Couple of different things. I'm having a very, very hard time with my portal here, so if I miss anything, I apologize. Yeah, I mean, I typically don't insult people. I try to talk to people before I insult them, but occasionally you'll get somebody who is so proudly and confidently stupid that the best thing that you can do is insult them for your own pleasure and walk away. Because I always prefer to have conversation, but there are some times when I will get people who are just so confidently wrong, so confidently dumb, that nothing I say will ever help or improve them. And so the very best that I can do is just hope someday they'll apologize to the trees for all the oxygen that they wasted. I was gonna say the only Yule log I know of is the pastry. I hadn't heard of the fireside one before. Yeah, it goes way back to Scandinavian Yuletide traditions. My favorite Shakespearean insult is "get thee to a nunnery." "Get thee to a nunnery" is a spectacular. I don't necessarily think that would be an insult, but sort of a brush off, right? It's sort of a brush aside. It's saying you're so annoying. Just get thee to a nunnery. I'm actually dropping off a Yule log this year to the sons of my friend that passed this year. I had it picked special for her before she left this plane. Well, that's lovely, Milu. That'll be quite a nice thing for the holidays, I think. Alright, friends, I'm just sitting here staring out into space. Oh, and the bear shows up right as I'm getting ready to read. There he is. Welcome in, brother. I was told you could quite possibly be watching cricket. So in my Star Wars game yesterday, I had a mission where I made a senator confess to being corrupt. I went to the government with honest intentions. It's always funny to me that how whenever I could make a story time about anything, make a story time about, and then I'll get somebody who drops in and says something about some political thing or some social thing that I'm not privy to because I don't keep up with the modern dramas and dogmas and debaucheries and whatnot. My basically all my pop culture knowledge stops at like 2011. Just dozed off and have just woken up. Hasn't started yet. Oh, all right then. Nine four. But yeah, well, I'll get people who come in and they'll make it they're always pointing. No. That's all right. That's all right. COVID. Do what you go to. Go do what you go to. Amo Mahayan. Amo Mahayan. Hello, welcome in over on the YouTube portal. So very glad that you could join us. Be right back. All right, we're going to be starting here presently. So hurry. Yeah, I'll get random people who just come in and they make it about these random weird things. And I can't even be bothered to look it up most times. I'll just like, yeah, whatever you say, my friend. Whatever you say. The funny ones are when people are like, oh, he's talking about X and Y thing. Like, no, I was not. Whatever you thought I was talking about, probably not. Probably not. I did a story time today about villains. Ashen, hello, welcome in. What is going on? We're doing story time. Very presently, I will be reading you all a story. That's such a weird thing. That's such a weird thing to say. You attract strange people, Matty. You attract strange people. Yeah, Aaron is gonna deport Matty wherever he needs to go. Wherever she decides he's going. He's under her ownership, so oh. Stranger Things, the show Stranger Things. Because I haven't watched that yet either. I don't really particularly care about spoilers because I'll watch it. If I watch it, it's got to have a good story anyways. If the entire story is dependent on a twist, it's not a very good story. If the twist is what makes it good, then the twist is good, but the rest of the writing is not. If it can't stand alone outside of that. Yes, we're not watching. I am reading to you all Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So let's get a recap in real quick. When we last left off, our heroes Hermione, Ron, and Harry had snuck into the Ministry of Magic, disguised as employees. Stranger Things is weirdly weird. Yeah, I enjoyed the first two seasons. I didn't enjoy the last two quite as much. Or the last one. What are we on? Season 4, season 5? The lady has liked it, so we've kept up with it. But I sort of lost a lot of the wow factor after the second season. Still pretty good. It's still decent. Still one of the better things out. It went like this, and now it's kind of going steady like this. So yeah. I mean, I'm so far disconnected from all the things that people are worried about. Because I've been around and I've lived in enough places that I know that most of the things that people worry about are irrelevant. Like people will get, and it's not my place to tell them that it's irrelevant, so I just don't bother having the conversation. Because people will get all horrified about this current social thing that's going on, or this current political thing that's going on, or this current world thing that's going on, and then 2 months later, people are worried about something else entirely. Up to season 5 now, Castle. Thank you, Esther. I appreciate you. I don't even know if I remember what season 4 was about. Did we watch season 4 of Stranger Things, Lovey?
Yes.
I don't even remember what it was about. That's what I just said. I don't remember.
Wait, no. It was the Mind Flayer, right?
I think so.
Player, we watched it.
Is I'm calling your phone. Is your new phone ringing?
You called me again?
Yeah. It's not ringing. Okay.
They finished the transfer.
I forget a lot too. Yeah. Buy this gemma or free. It's all free. I don't know. I don't understand the question, but it's all free. Whatever, everything that you're experiencing here is for free. All I'm worried about is my friends, the tavern, and my book. Kodabu and Milo are great. They're all doing wonderful. Welcome back, Bethany. We're just about to start. Anyways, they had just snuck into the Ministry of Magic disguised as employees, trying to get the locket from the frog lady. What's her name? The frog evil woman, Umbridge, trying to get the locket back from Umbridge. And they did get it from her. They knocked her out. They gave her a good old right hook and took the locket. And then they managed to get out. And now, as they were leaving, they were attacked. And it seems like now Harry and Ron are both bleeding. And that's where we are at present. Esther and Matty say, hello, Lady Una. Friends, give me just a moment. You'll still be able to hear me. I'm just popping up for a second. I will be... Right. Step over this way for a moment. Everything finished transferring.
It's got this right now. Do we have to call them to do it?
It shouldn't be. You should just...
It's an Eason.
Yeah, they're all messages. Sorry, friends. I'll be right there. Just have a little thing that we're getting done. It is quite an exciting prospect, Matty. It is an exciting prospect. That's a nice chair, thank you. It's actually just a nice blanket over a really ratty chair. But it's the illusion of the camera, right? moving magic. All right, friends, give me just one more minute, and then we'll be doing story time. I apologize. Sorry, I had to do some parenting real quick. So I figured I'd bring over Milo, who is sleeping when he's not supposed to, and have him say hello. But there he is. Look at him. He wants so badly to be sleeping, but he's not supposed to be. Jaeger, hello, my son. Welcome in. Thank you kindly for the resub. What is that? What does it say? 31 months. What an absolute savage and legend you are. Okay, let's begin, shall we? We are in chapter 14 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. The Thief. Harry opened his eyes and was dazzled by gold and green. He had no idea what had happened. He only knew that he was lying on what seemed to be leaves and twigs. Struggling to draw breath into his lungs, he felt flattened. He blinked and realized that the gaudy glare was sunlight streaming through a canopy of leaves far above him. Then an object twitched close to his face. He pushed himself to his hands and knees, ready to face some small, fierce creature, but saw that the object was Ron's foot. Looking around, Harry saw that they and Hermione were laying on the forest floor, apparently alone. Harry's first thought was that of the Forbidden Forest, and for a moment, even though he knew how foolish and dangerous it would be for them to appear in the grounds of Hogwarts, his heart leapt at the thought of sneaking through the trees to Hagrid's hut. However, in the few moments it took for Ron to give a low groan and Harry to start crawling toward him, he realized that this was not the Forbidden Forest. The trees looked younger, they were more widely spread, and the ground clearer. He met Hermione, also on her hands and knees at Ron's head. The moment his eyes fell upon Ron, all other concern fled Harry's mind, for the blood drenched the whole of Ron's left side, and his face stood out greyish-white against the leaf-strewn earth. The Polyjuice potion was wearing off now. Ron was halfway between Cattermole and himself in appearance. His hair turned redder and redder, and his face drained of the little colour it had left. What's happened to him? Splinched, said Hermione, her fingers already busy at Ron's sleeve where the blood was wettest and darkest. Harry watched horrified as she tore open Ron's shirt. He had always thought splinching was something comical, but this... His insides crawled unpleasantly as Hermione lay bare Ron's upper arm, where a great chunk of flesh was missing, scooped cleanly away as though by a knife. Harry, quickly, in my bag. There's a small bottle of essence of Dittany. Bag, right. Harry sped to the place where Hermione had landed, seized the tiny beaded bag, and thrust his hand inside, and at once object after object began presenting itself to his touch. He felt the leather spines of books, woolly sleeves of jumpers, heels of shoes. Quickly! He grabbed his wand from the ground and pointed it into the depths of the bag. Accio Dittany! A small brown bottle zoomed out of the bag. He caught it and hastened back to Hermione and Ron, whose eyes were now half closed, strips of white eyeballs, all that were visible under his lids. He's fainted, said Hermione, who was also rather pale. She no longer looked like Mafalda, though her hair was still grey in places. Unstopper it for me, Harry. My hands are shaking. Harry wrenched the stopper off the little bottle. Hermione took it and poured 3 drops of the potion into the bleeding wound. Greenish smoke billowed upwards, and when it had cleared, Harry saw that the bleeding had stopped. The wound now looked several days old. New skin stretched over what had been open flesh. Wow, said Harry. It's all I feel safe doing, said Hermione shakily. There are spells that could put him completely right, but I don't dare try to do them wrong and cause more damage. He's lost so much blood already. How did he get hurt? I mean, Harry shook his head, trying to clear it, to make sense of whatever had just taken place. Why are we here? I thought we were going back to Grimmauld Place. Hermione took a deep breath. She looked close to tears. Harry, I don't think we're going to be able to go back there. What do you... When we disapparated, Yaxley got hold of me. I couldn't get rid of him. He was too strong. And he was still holding on when we arrived at Grimmauld Place, and then, well, I think he must have seen the door and thought we were stopping there. So he slacked his grip and managed to shake him off, and I brought us here instead. But then, where is he? Hang on. You don't mean he's at Grimmauld Place? He can't get in there. Her eyes sparkled with unshed tears as she nodded. Harry, I think he can. I forced him to let go with a revulsion jinx, but I'd already taken him inside the Fidelius charm protection. Since Dumbledore died, we're secret keepers, so I've given him the secret, haven't I? There was no pretending. Harry was sure she was right. It was a serious blow. If Yaxley could now get inside the house, there was no way that they could return. Even now, he could be bringing other Death Eaters in there by apparition. Gloomy and oppressive though the house was, it had been their one safe refuge. Even now, the creature was much happier and friendlier, a kind of home. With a twinge of regret, he had nothing to do with food. Harry imagined the house elf busying himself with a steak and kidney pie. Okay, Milo wants to leave, so everybody say goodnight to Milo. I'm going to let him go. The memory of thought. Hello, hello. I'm so sorry. I thought you were somebody else completely different. No, that's quite all right. Susan, thank you for the heart me. I appreciate you. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. See, that's what everyone told me, but I have no recollection of the tavern chair religion, and my first recollection was of you saying it. Oh. All right. Oh, have you ever had Milo? Mel, hello, I didn't see you drop in, but Rachel, hello, getting my holiday shopping done, wonderful. Pazza, I am not alone. See, Matty's a proper cult creator. He's trying to blame everybody else for creating it. That's what's going on. He's trying to make sure that the attention is not solely on him. Oh, yes. I do remember Bear bringing it up. If I have had it, I would have had it when I was very young. I don't remember properly. Maybe we can send you over a tin. You don't have to do that. I mean, I'm sure that the lady and the boy would love chocolate milk. They are chocolate milk hounds. The two of them are. We have something similar over in the States called Ovaltine. That is pretty nice. I don't like the standard ones like the Nesquik and all that. It's just too much sugar. So Milo was first introduced to Australia in 1934. Interesting. Yeah, I have had almost no eggnog this year though, Gega. Because I am busy exercising and losing weight. I've stayed mostly off of sugar and sweets and so on. I miss Ovaltine too. I love eggnog. There are great and terrible things I would do for eggnog all year round. Yeah, I've had almost no sweets and no junk food and no nothing. I've lost 5 kg in the past 6 weeks. Very good. And, that's if you were hoping for it. I want a Milo now. Our Milo is not chocolate flavored. He is silly bastard flavored. All the Aussies coming in with our great Australian drink. Yeah. All right, back to reading. Back to reading. I'll pop back up in a little bit, friends. Harry, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be stupid. It wasn't your fault. If anything, it was mine. Harry put his hand in his pocket and drew out Mad Eye's eye. Hermione recoiled, looking horrified. Umbridge had it stuck in her office door to spy on people. Couldn't leave it there. But that's how they knew there were intruders. Before Hermione could answer, Ron groaned and opened his eyes. He was still grey and his face glistened with sweat. How do you feel? Hermione whispered. Lousy, croaked Ron, wincing as he felt his injured arm. Where are we? In the woods where they held the Quidditch World Cup, said Hermione. I wanted somewhere close, under cover, and this was the first place you thought of. Harry finished for her, glancing around at the apparently deserted glade. He could not help remembering what had happened the last time that they had apparated to the first place Hermione had thought of. How Death Eaters had found them within minutes. Had it been Legomancy? Did Voldemort and his henchmen know, even now, where Hermione had taken them? Do you reckon we should move on? Ron asked Harry, and Harry could tell by the look on Ron's face that he was thinking the same. I don't know. Ron still looked pale and clammy. He had made no attempt to sit up, and it looked as though he was too weak to do so. The prospect of moving him was daunting. Let's stay here for now, Harry said. Looking relieved, Hermione sprang to her feet. Where are you going? Asked Ron. If we're staying, we should put up some protective enchantments around this place, she said. And raising her wand, she began to walk in a wide circle around Harry and Ron, murmuring incantations as she went. Harry saw little disturbances in the surrounding air. It was as if Hermione had cast a heat haze upon their clearing. Savio Hexia, Protego Totalum, Repello Muggletum is wild. Muffliato. Could you get out the tent, Harry? Tent? In the bag! Oh, of course, said Harry. He did not bother to grope around in it this time. He used another summoning charm. The tent emerged in a lumpy mass of canvas, rope, and poles. Harry recognized it, partly because of the smell of cats, as the same tent in which they had slept in the night of the Quidditch World Cup. I thought this belonged to that bloke Perkins at the Ministry, he said, starting to disentangle the tent pegs. Apparently he didn't want it back. His lumbago's so bad, said Hermione, now performing complicated figure-of-8 movements with her wand. So Ron's dad said I could borrow it. A recto, she added, pointing her wand at the misshapen canvas, in which one fluid motion rose into the air and settled, fully constructed, onto the ground, before Harry, out of whose startled hands the tent peg soared, to land with a final thud at the end of a guide rope. Cave Anision, Hermione finished with a skyward flourish. That's as much as I can do. At the very least, we should know they're coming. Can't guarantee it will keep out of Volt. Don't say the name, Ron cut across her, his voice harsh. Harry and Hermione looked at each other. I'm sorry, said Ron, moaning a little as he raised himself to look at them. But it feels like a jinx or something. Can't we call him you-know-who, please? Dumbledore said to fear a name is... began Harry. Well, in case you hadn't noticed, mate, calling you-know-who by his name didn't do Dumbledore much good in the end, Ron snapped back. Just Show you know who some respect, will you? Respect? Harry repeated. But Hermione shot him a warning look. Apparently, he was not to argue with Ron while the latter was in such a weakened condition. Harry and Hermione half carried, half dragged Ron through the entrance of the tent. The interior was exactly as Harry remembered it. A small flat, complete with bathroom and tiny kitchen. He shoved aside an old armchair and lowered Ron carefully onto the lower berth of a bunk bed. Even this very short journey had turned Ron whiter still. And once they had settled him onto a mattress, he closed his eyes again and did not speak for a while. I'll make some tea, said Hermione breathlessly, pulling kettle and mugs from the depths of her bag and heading towards the kitchen. Harry found a hot drink as welcome as the fire whiskey had been on the night that Mad-Eye had died. It seemed to burn away a little of the fear fluttering in his chest. After a minute or two, Ron broke the silence. What do you reckon happened to the Cattermoles? With any luck, they'll have gotten away, said Hermione, clutching her hot mug for comfort. As long as Mr. Cattermole had his wits about him, he'll have transported Mrs. Cattermole by sidelong apparition, and they'll be fleeing the country right now with their children. That's what Harry told her to do. Blimey, I hope they escaped, said Ron, leaning back on his pillow. The tea seemed to be doing him good. A little of his colour had returned. I didn't get the feeling Reg Cattermole was all that quick-witted, though. The way everyone was talking to me when I was in, God, I hope they made it. If they both end up in Azkaban because of us. Harry looked over at Hermione and the question he had been about to ask, about whether Mrs. Cattermole's lack of a wand would prevent her apparating alongside her husband, died in his throat. Hermione was watching Ron fret over the fate of the Cattermoles, and there was such a tenderness in her expression that Harry felt almost as if he had surprised her in the act of kissing him. So, have you got it? Harry asked her, partly to remind her that he was there. Got what? She said with a little start. What did we just go through all that for? The locket. Where's the locket? You got it? Shouted Ron, raising himself a little higher in the pillow. No one tells me anything. Blimey. You could have mentioned it. Well, we were running for our lives from Death Eaters, weren't we? Said Hermione. Here. She pulled the locket out of the pocket of her robes and handed it to Ron. It was as large as a chicken's egg, with an ornate letter S inlaid with many small green stones, glinted dully in the diffused light shining through the tent's canvas roof. There isn't a chance someone's destroyed it since Creature had it, said Ron hopefully. I mean, are we sure it's still a Horcrux? I think so, said Hermione, taking it back from him and looking at it closely. There'd be some sign of damage if it had been magically destroyed. She passed it to Harry, who turned it over in his fingers. The thing looked perfect, pristine. He remembered the mangled remains of the diary and how the stone in the Horcrux ring had been cracked open when Dumbledore had destroyed it. I reckon Creature's right, said Harry. We're going to have to work out how to open this thing before we can destroy it. Sudden awareness of what he was holding, of what lived behind the little golden doors, hit Harry as he spoke. Even after all their effort to find it, he felt a violent urge to fling the locket from him. Mastering himself again, he tried to prise the locket apart with his fingers. He then attempted to charm Hermione had used to open Regulus's bedroom door. Neither worked. He handed the locket back to Ron and Hermione, and each of them did their best, but were no more successful at opening it than he had been. Can you feel it, though? Ron asked in a hushed voice as he held it tight in his clenched fist. What do you mean? Ron passed the Horcrux to Harry. For a moment or two, Harry thought he knew what Ron meant. It was his own blood pulsing through his veins that he could feel. Or was it something beating inside the locket? A tiny metal heart. What are we going to do with it? Hermione asked. Keep it safe until we work out how to destroy it, Harry replied. Little though he wanted to, he hung the chain around his own neck, dropping the locket out of sight beneath his robes, where it rested against his chest, beside the pouch Hagrid had given him. I think we should take it in turns to keep watch outside the tent. Oh, I think we should take it in turns to keep watch outside the tent, he added to Hermione, standing up and stretching. I will need to think about some food as well. You stay here, he added sharply as Ron attempted to sit up and turn a nasty shade of green. With the sneakoscope Hermione had given Harry for his birthday set carefully upon the table in the tent, Harry and Hermione spent the rest of the day sharing the role of lookout. However, the sneakoscope remained silent and still upon its point all day. And whether because of the protective enchantments and muggle-repelling charms Hermione had spread around them, or because people rarely ventured this way, their patch of wood remained deserted, apart from the occasional birds and squirrels. Evening brought no change. Harry lit his wand as he swapped places with Hermione at 10 o'clock, and looked out upon the deserted scene, noting bats fluttering high above him across the single patch of starry sky visible from their protected clearing. He felt hungry now, and a little lightheaded. Hermione had not packed any food in her magical bag, as she had assumed they would be returning to Grimmauld Place that night. So they had had nothing to eat except some wild mushrooms that Hermione had collected from amongst the nearest trees and stewed in a billy can. After a couple of mouthfuls, Ron had pushed his portion away, looking queasy. Harry had only persevered so as not to hurt Hermione's feelings. The surrounding silence was broken by odd rustlings and what sounded like cracking of twigs. Harry thought that they were caused by animals rather than people, but he kept his wand held tight and at the ready. His insides, already uncomfortable due to their inadequate helping of rubbery mushrooms, tingled with unease. He had thought that he would feel elated if they managed to steal back the Horcrux, but somehow he did not. All he felt as he sat there looking out at the darkness of which his wand lit only a tiny part of, was the worry about what happened next. It was as though he had been hurtling towards this point for weeks, months, maybe even years. But now he had come to the abrupt halt, run out of road. There were other Horcruxes out there somewhere, but he did not have the faintest idea where they could be. He did not even know what all of them were. Meanwhile, he was at a loss to know how to destroy the only one that he had found, the Horcrux that currently lay against his bare flesh. Currently, it had not taken heat from his body, but lay so cold against his skin it might have emerged from icy water. From time to time, Harry thought, or perhaps imagined, that he could feel a tiny heartbeat ticking irregularly alongside his own. Nameless forebodings crept upon him as he sat there in the dark. He tried to resist them, push them away, yet they came at him relentlessly. Neither can live while the other survives. Ron and Hermione, now talking softly behind him in the tent, could walk away if they wanted to. He could not. And it seemed to Harry that he sat there trying to master his own fear and exhaustion, that the Horcrux against his chest was ticking away the time he had left. Stupid idea, he told himself. Don't think that. His scar was starting to prickle again. He was afraid that he was making it happen by having these thoughts. He tried to direct them to another channel. He thought of poor Creature, who had expected them home and had received Yaxley instead. Would the elf keep silent, or would he tell the Death Eaters everything he knew? Harry wanted to believe that Creature had changed toward him in the past month, and that he would be loyal now. But who knew what would happen? What if the Death Eaters tortured the elf? Sick images swarmed to Harry's head as he tried to push these away too. For there was nothing he could do for Creature. He and Hermione had already decided against trying to summon him. What if someone from the Ministry came too? They could not count on elfish apparition being free from the same flaw that had taken Yaxley to Grimmauld Place on the hem of Hermione's sleeve. Harry's scar was burning now. He thought that there was so much they did not know. Lupin had been right about the magic they had never encountered or imagined. Why hadn't Dumbledore explained more? Had he thought that there would be time? That he would live for years, for centuries perhaps, like his friend Nicholas Flamel? If so, he had been wrong. Snape had seen to that. Snape, the sleeping Snape. The one who had struck at the top of the tower. Dumbledore had fallen. Give it to me, Gregorovitch! Arthur Christie, hello! But blow a raspberry for me. I will blow one for you at the moment. Hopefully you're not too far gone. Give me just a moment. Macy Paul and Arthur Christie, welcome in. Let me get you a toot on the raid horn before you head to bed. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome in, Arthur Christie and friends, all of the badgers. Settle in, grab a drink. Don't worry about badgering us. We'll all be fine. Benjamin, thank you kindly for the heart me over on TikTok. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated, friend. Thank you very much. A Viking Raspberry 10 out of 10 too. Absolute pleasure. Macy, I'm glad that you can come in. Arthur Christie, I hope that you have a wonderful evening. I hope you rest well, and I hope you rise tomorrow ready to face the day, and that your evening was grand and productive. Now hi ho, it's off to Iceland we go. Well, I guess it's away from Iceland we would go, yeah? Gotta go out and do the other things. Alrighty. Just a moment. For anyone who needs to head off to bed, certainly go ahead and do so. I appreciate you. We are in the middle of Chapter 14 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, so if you would like to spend some time with us, you are more than welcome to do so. It's so satisfying the way you say Harry. Your voice is lovely to listen to. Well, thank you, Macy. I'm glad that you enjoy. Settle in, fill your glass, and we'll have you for story time for a little bit. Physio in 2 hours, otherwise I'm free. Spectacular cover. We should be, I think we'll be on for about another 90 minutes, maybe. So settle in, and Give it to me, Gregorovitch! Harry's voice was high, clear and cold, his wand held out in front of him by a long-fingered white hand. The man at whom he was pointing was suspended upside down in mid-air, though there were no ropes holding him. He swung there, invisibly and eerily bound, his limbs wrapped about him, his terrified face on a level with Harry's ruddy, due to the blood that had been rushed to his head. He had pure white hair and thick bushy beard, a trussed-up Father Christmas. I have it not. I do not have it anymore. It was many years ago, stolen from me. Do not lie to... Wait, who is this? Oh, it is Voldemort. Do not lie to Lord Voldemort. Gregorovitch, he knows. He always knows. The hangman's pupils were wide, dilated with fear, and they seemed to swell bigger and bigger until their blackness swallowed Harry whole. And now Harry was hurrying along a dark corridor in a stout little Grigorovich's wake as he held a lantern aloft. Grigorovich burst into the room at the end of the passage, and his lantern illuminated what looked like a workshop. Wood shavings and gold gleaming in the swinging pool light. And there on the window's ledge sat perched, like a giant bird, a young man with golden hair. In a split second, the lantern's light illuminated him. And he saw the delight upon his handsome face. Then the intruder shot him a stunning spell from his wand and jumped neatly backwards out of the window and with a crow of laughter. And Harry was hurtling back out of those wide, tunnel-like pupils, and Grigorovich's face was stricken with terror. "Who was the thief, Grigorovich?" said the high, cold voice. "I do not know. I never knew. A young man. No, please, please!" A scream went on in a burst of green light. "Hurry!" He opened his eyes, panting, his forehead throbbing. He had passed out, against the side of the tent. He had slid sideways down the canvas and was sprawled on the ground. He looked up at Hermione, whose bushy hair obscured the tiny patch of visible sky through the dark branches high above them. "Dream," he said, sitting up quickly, attempting to meet Hermione's glower with a look of innocence. "I must have dozed off. Sorry." "I know it was your scar. I can tell by looking at your face. You were looking into "Don't say his name!" came Ron's angry voice from the depths of the tent. "Fine!" retorted Hermione. "You know whose mind then." "I didn't mean it to happen," Harry said. "It was a dream. Can you control what you dream about, Hermione?" "If you just learn to apply occlumency." But Harry was not interested in being told off. He wanted to discuss what he had just seen. "He's found Grigorovich, Hermione, and I think he's killed him. But before he killed him, he read Grigorovich's mind, and I saw." I think I'd better take over the watch if you're so tired you're falling asleep," said Hermione coldly. "I can finish the watch." "No, you're obviously exhausted. Go lie down." She dropped down in the mouth of the tent, looking stubborn. Angry, but wishing to avoid a row, Harry ducked back inside the tent. Ron's still pale face was poking out from the lower bunk. Harry climbed into the one above him, lay down, and looked up at the dark canvas ceiling. After several moments, Ron spoke in a voice so low that it would not carry to Hermione, huddled in the entrance. "What's you know who doing?" Harry screwed up his eyes in an effort to remember every detail, then whispered into the darkness. "He's found Grigorovich. He had him tied up. He was torturing him." "How's Grigorovich supposed to make him a new wand if he's tied up?" "I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?" Harry closed his eyes, thinking of all he had seen and heard. The more he recalled, the less sense it made. Voldemort had said nothing about Harry's wand, nothing about the twin cores, nothing about Grigorovich making a new or more powerful wand to beat Harry's. "He wanted something from Grigorovich," said Harry, his eyes still closed tight. "He asked him to hand it over, but Grigorovich said it had been stolen from him, and then he remembered how he, as Voldemort, had seemed to hurtle through Grigorovich's eyes, into his memories. He read Grigorovich's mind, and I saw this young bloke perched on a windowsill, and he fired a curse at Grigorovich and then jumped out of sight. He stole it, whatever it was. You know who's after, and I think I've seen him somewhere." Harry wished he could have another glimpse at the laughing boy's face. The theft had happened many years ago, according to Grigorovich. Why did the young thief look so familiar? The noises of the surrounding woods were muffled inside of the tent. All Harry could hear was Ron's breathing. After a while, Ron whispered. "Couldn't see what the thief was holding." "No, must have been something small." "Harry." The wooden slats of Ron's bunk creaked as he repositioned himself in bed. "Harry, do you reckon you know who's after something else to turn into a Horcrux?" I don't know, said Harry slowly. Maybe. But wouldn't it be dangerous for him to make another one? Didn't Hermione say he'd pushed his soul to the limit already? Yeah, maybe, but he doesn't know that. Yeah, maybe, said Harry. He had been sure that Voldemort had been looking for a way around the problem of the twin cores. Sure that Voldemort sought a solution from the old wand maker. And yet, he had killed him. Apparently without asking him a single question about wand lore. What was Voldemort trying to find? Why, with the Ministry of Magic and the Wizarding World at his feet, was he far away, intent on the pursuit of an object Gregorovitch had once owned, and which had been stolen by an unknown thief? Harry could still see the blonde-haired youth's face. It's merry, wild. It was merry, wild. There was Fred and George-ish air of triumphant trickery about them. He had soared from the windowsill like a bird, and Harry had seen him before, but he could not think where. With Gregorovitch dead, it was the merry-faced thief who was in danger now, and it was on him that Harry's thoughts dwelled, as Ron's snores began to rumble from the lower bunk, and he himself drifted slowly into sleep once more. And so ends chapter 14, my friends. Bandamali, hello, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. So, how many other blocks? Because again, remember, this is my first time reading the 7th book. I'm reading it all for the first time with you. I've not seen the films, and I've not read the book. So, what other blonde families are there in Harry Potter's universe than the Malfoys? Also, friends, oh, we're in ads. I didn't realize that ads were coming up. That's my fault. Apologize, friends. For anyone who cannot hear me, we'll be back in just a moment. But are there any other blondes in the Harry Potter? I think the blondes we have are the Malfoys and Luna, the Lovegoods, right? Did you read the 7th book, Lovey? Did you? And you've seen the film, yeah? Okay. So then, it doesn't make any sense for it to be a Malfoy, so it would have to be Luna's dad. If it was a long time ago. That would also explain why we were introduced to Luna's dad in the beginning of the book, when we'd never been introduced to him before. Random blondes in the Ministry walking by. Yeah, it could be. Could be. From the other schools, well, that's true. There were a lot of blondes from, not from Durmstrang. Durmstrang was mostly brunettes with black-haired folk, but from the, yeah, Floor's school. Whose name I can't remember the name of the school. What is the name of the French school in Harry Potter? I can't remember for the life of me. Johnny boy, hello, how are you? Bobaton, there you go, Bobaton. Thank you, Belinda, thank you, Milo, I appreciate you both. Johnny boy, how you doing, my friend? Speed of, would you guys like another chapter? The next chapter is 15 pages long. No, 18 pages long. So it will be a longer chapter, meaning we'll be on for quite a bit. And normally we would be ending up right about now. Doing great, man. It's good to see you. It's good to see you too, brother. I've been lurking when you've been on. I just haven't had time to drop in and talk. The lady and I have been up to our ears in work the last couple of months. So I've not had as much time for conversation as of late. But it's good to see you, brother. I hope you're doing well. I know some of you got to get off to bed, so I will. If you guys would like, we'll do another chapter, and I'll keep my waffles to a minimum, so we can just focus on getting some more story in before bedtime. Of course, but we need to talk soon. It's been too long. Been too long. Let's see. Yeah, that would be nice. Hopefully, sometime in early next year, I will be slowing down a little bit for work. Uh, but for right now, the lady and I are all the way down. Gas pedal to the floor. I'm gonna have to head off. Long day for me tomorrow. Thank you as always, Constable. All right, Frost. I appreciate you, brother. Let's send Frost off with a good night. One of our absolutely spectacular barkeeps. Linny and Belinda both say yes, more. Everybody else looks like it's saying more as well. I'm here, but I'm processing things in my head. That's all right. Indeed, I might give you a call pretty soon if you like. Can talk over the phone. Yeah, we'll set something up. Just message me beforehand, because when I'm working, I don't even pay attention to my phone. I'm usually, like I said, the lady and I are pretty much working all the time now. So just message me beforehand, and I'll make sure that I'm available. I'm fine if the consensus is just one day. It seems like the consensus is two. So I guess we just ran ads, so let's buckle up and go right in. But yeah, brother, we should talk soon, and then you, me, and the lady can see about maybe playing a game sometime soon. I was hoping to get back to doing some games for Twitch only this next year, but we'll have to see how it goes. We're trying to make it so that we can keep doing the tavern full time, and a lot of the work we're doing is dependent on that. So yeah, I figured as soon as I sent that last chapter, yeah, yeah, it seems like everybody's is keen for another. So why not? Let's go ahead and do it. Lovey, how you doing on your libations over there? Do you need more? All right, I'm gonna pop up and stretch real quick and get the lady her coffee, and then I'm on and off now. That's all right, Matty. I heard you say you're having a rough day, so just hang out. No pressure at all. I'm gonna get the lady some coffee, stretch, and I'll be right back, friends. Alright, I have returned. When we last met here in the tavern, I had my mate Mick over. Well, he was over yesterday as well. Between the two of us, we busted up all parts. My yard looks like a yard again, green and lovely with gardens ready for the late season planting. I am paying for 2 days HRD Yaka. Oh, what's that? It's like, what am I hearing? Well, that's spectacular news, Bear. I have the song Dirty Old Town stuck in my head. I haven't heard Dirty Old Town in forever. That's very good. Fairy Tale of New York is another spectacular one. I can't sing Fairy Tale of New York. Hard Yaka, Aussie slang castle. What does it mean, though? Fairy Tale is such a good song. Castle can't do it because of certain words in the song. Yeah, there are two words in the song that would probably get us banned if we did Fairy Tale of New York. So Bear and I, we had a conversation. We agreed it's probably better just to not do it rather than replace the words. Hard work or strenuous labor. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Very good. It's one of my favorite Christmas songs too. But it would definitely get the tavern banned. Somebody would be sensitive. Somebody would be tender about it, and then we would no longer have a tavern on some of the places. For sure, TikTok would not be pleasant. Would not be pleased with it. Would not be pleased. All right, friends, let's continue. We are on to chapter 15. Milo, thank you for the resub, love. I appreciate you for that. Tips to the tavern keep. Always appreciate 13 whole months. Officially over a year in the tavern. Hey, I just came across this. Well, Depop SSB, I'm just going to call you Depop. Welcome in. I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again I read you all a story. This is a place at the end of the world where all stories eventually come to rest. And then we are the keepers of those stories, and we pass them along to you. And since you are here, it means you sought a story, because that's the only time that the doors open. Papa's Chill, thanks for the welcome. Of course. Anyone you see that has a sword next to their name, those are the barkeeps. They'll be able to answer any questions you might have while my head is down. And please feel free to join us if you enjoy anything that has to do with storytelling, fiction, mythology, anything of the like. You'll be in good company here in the tavern. Hard Yaka, hard work. Makes sense. Now I've got a new one for my arsenal. It would not offend me. I assume that most folk here in the tavern are not easily offended, but it would offend the censures, to be sure. I actually finished writing a short story of my own. Took me months. Very good. Congratulations. Well done. That's the hard thing to do. What's the song, Castle? I just heard you can't sing it. The song is called The Fairy Tale of New York. It's sung by the Pogues. It's a classic. It's been around for a very long time. And it's got a few words that are the modern sensibilities probably would not agree with. It's a great song, but it's one of those things where I would get in trouble for singing it on, I think, TikTok and Twitch for sure, and quite possibly YouTube as well. Yeah. All right, let's continue stories, my friends. Grab your seats, settle in. Oh, the word for a bundle of sticks, that one, and the word for a woman of the night who works for money. Both of those would probably get me in a fair amount of trouble. Yeah. think more. Who trades money for the company of men is an aggressive and sometimes a crocheter. There you go. Oh, now I've got. I'm gonna be banned. The Pogues and Christy McCall. Yeah, I'm not offended easily. Mostly, though, Una's words tend to come to mind when my insulted feeling comes in. So Una actually has helped me emotionally regulate better with just her advice. Yeah. Well, we're very frank here. The lady and I are both very frank, and neither one of us is easily offended. So people will come and say, "Hey, I have this problem with thing, and I don't mean to offend you. You didn't. Don't worry." You know, they say it's the world's oldest profession. They say what's ever paid for that. I say it's whatever paid for that. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Also, thank you, Una, because when you translate crochet, it means.
Oh, yeah. It means okay.
That's not the word, but yes, that same profession.
Like,
Pop, thank you kindly. Enjoy your Harvest Moon cider there. Thank you for the subscription. Tips to the Tavern Keeper are always appreciated. Enjoy your emotes. They're little dragons because we are the Black Dragon Tavern. So, enjoy yourself. Thank you kindly for the support. Means the world. All right, let me get back to reading so that you guys can be off to bed on time tonight. Where was I? Harry Potter and the Deathly Hollows. Chapter 15. The Goblin's Revenge. Early next morning, before the other two were awake, Harry left the tent to search the woods around them for the oldest, most gnarled and resilient tree he could find. There, in its shadow, he buried Mad-Eye Moody's eye and marked the spot by gouging a small cross in the bark with his wand. It was not much, but Harry felt that Mad-Eye would have much preferred this to being stuck in Dolores Umbridge's door. Then he returned to the tent to wait for the others to wake and discuss what they were going to do next. Harry and Hermione felt that it was best not to stay anywhere too long, and Ron agreed. The sole proviso that their next move took them within reach of a bacon sandwich. Hermione therefore removed the enchantments she had placed around the clearing, while Harry and Ron obliterated all the marks and impressions on the ground that might show they had camped there. Then they disapparated to the outskirts of a small market town. Once they had pitched the tent in the shelter of a small copse of trees and surrounded it with freshly cast defensive enchantments, Harry ventured out under the invisibility cloak to find sustenance. This, however, did not go as planned. He had barely entered the town when an unnatural chill, a descending mist and sudden darkening of the skies made him freeze where he stood. "But you can make a brilliant Patronus," protested Ron when Harry arrived back at the tent empty-handed, out of breath and mouthing the single word, "Dementors." I couldn't make one," he panted, clutching his side and the stitch in his side. "Wouldn't come." Their expressions of consternation and disappointment made Harry feel ashamed. It had been a nightmarish experience seeing the Dementors gliding out of the mist in the distance and realizing, as the paralyzing cold choked his lungs and a distant scream filled his ears, that he was not going to be able to protect himself. It had taken all Harry's willpower to uproot himself from the spot and run, leaving the eyeless Dementors to glide amongst the Mongols who might not be able to see them, but would assuredly feel the despair they cast wherever they went. "So we still haven't got any food?" "Shut up, Ron," snapped Hermione. "Harry, what happened? Why do you think you couldn't make your Patronus? You managed perfectly yesterday." I don't know." He sat low in one of Perkins' old armchairs, feeling... Hang on. I can hear... The music does not, Does not match the vibe. Hang on. I just enjoyed my own writing so much that I wanted to search for writing and reading channels on Twitch. Well, there you go. There are actually quite a few readers and writers in the Tavern community, so you'll be in good company. This is pleasant. This is a pleasant find. I like his dramatized voice. Well, I'm glad you enjoy. But this is actually my voice. Obviously, I dramatize when I read, but this is how I talk. Imagine having to deal with me 24/7 like the lady does. She has to listen to this all the time. He sat low in one of Perkins' old armchairs, feeling more humiliated by the moment. He was afraid that something had gone wrong inside of him. Yesterday seemed a long time ago. Today he might have been 13 years old again. The only one who collapsed on the Hogwarts Express. Ron kicked a chair leg. What? He snarled at Hermione. I'm starving. All I've had since I bled half to death was a couple of toadstools. You go and fight your way through the Dementors then, said Harry, stung. I would, but my arm's in a sling, in case you hadn't noticed. That's convenient. And what's that supposed to? Of course, cried Hermione, clapping her hand to her forehead, startling both of them in silence. Harry, give me the locket. Come on, she said impatiently, clicking her fingers at him when he did not react. The Horcrux, Harry. You're still wearing it. She held out her hands, and Harry lifted the golden chain from over his head. The moment it parted contact with Harry's skin, he felt free and oddly light. He had not even realized that he was clammy or that there was a heavy weight pressing against his stomach until both sensations lifted. Better? Asked Hermione. Yeah, loads better. Harry, she said, crouching down in front of him and using a kind of voice associated with visiting the very sick. You don't think you've been possessed, do you? What? No, he said defensively. I remember everything I've done while I've been wearing it. I wouldn't know what I've done if I'd been possessed, would I? Ginny told me there were times when she couldn't remember anything. Said Hermione, looking down at the heavy golden locket. But maybe we ought not wear it. We can just keep it in the tent. We are not leaving that Horcrux lying around, Harry stated firmly. If we lose it or it gets stolen. Oh, all right, said Hermione, and she placed it around her own neck and tucked it out of sight down the front of her shirt. But we'll take turns wearing it, so nobody keeps it on too long. Great, said Ron irritably. Well, now that we've got that sorted out, can we please get some food? Fine, but we'll go somewhere else to find it, said Hermione with half a glance at Harry. There's no point in staying where we know Dementors are swooping around. In the end, they settled down for the night in a far-flung field belonging to a lonely farm, from which they had managed to obtain eggs and bread. It's not stealing, is it? Asked Hermione in a troubled voice as they devoured scrambled eggs on toast. Not if I left some money under the chicken coop. Ron rolled his eyes and said, with his cheeks bulging, Hermione, it worried too much. Relax. And indeed, it was much easier to relax when they were comfortably well fed. The argument about the Dementors was forgotten in laughter that night, and Harry felt cheerful and even hopeful, as he took the first of 3 night watches. This was their first encounter with the fact that a full stomach meant good spirits, an empty one, bickering and gloom. Harry was least surprised by this because he had suffered periods of near starvation at the Dursleys. Hermione bore up reasonably well on those nights when they managed to scavenge nothing but berries or stale biscuits, but temper perhaps a little shorter than usual, and her silence is rather dour. Ron, however, had always been used to 3 delicious meals a day, courtesy of his mother or the Hogwarts house elves, and hunger made him both unreasonable and irascible. Whenever lack of food coincided with Ron's turn to wear the Horcrux, he became downright unpleasant. So where next? Was his constant refrain. He did not seem to have any ideas himself. He expected Harry and Hermione to come up with the plans while he sat and brooded over low food supplies. Accordingly, Harry and Hermione spent fruitless hours trying to decide where they might find other Horcruxes, and how to destroy the one that they had already got. The conversations becoming increasingly repetitive as they had no new information. As Dumbledore had told Harry that he believed Voldemort had hidden the Horcruxes in places important to him, they kept reciting, in a sort of dreary litany, those locations they knew Voldemort had lived or visited. The orphanage where he had been born and raised, Hogwarts where he had been educated, Morgan and Burke's where he had worked in after completing school, then Albania where he had spent his years of exile. These formed a basis for their speculations. Yeah, let's go to Albania. Shouldn't take more than an afternoon to search an entire country, said Ron sarcastically.
There can't be anything here. He'd already made 5 Horcruxes before he went into exile, and Dumbledore was certain the snake is the 6th,
said Hermione.
We know the snake's not in Albania. It's usually with Did not ask you to stop saying that. Fine. The snake is usually with you-know-who. Happy?
Not particularly.
I can't see him hiding anything at Morgan and Burke's,
said Harry, who had made this point many times before, but had said it again simply to break the nasty silence.
Morgan and Burke's were experts in dark objects. They'd have likely recognized a Horcrux straight away.
Ron yawned pointedly, repressing a strong urge to throw something at him. Harry ploughed on.
Still, I reckon he might have hidden something at Hogwarts.
Hermione sighed.
But Dumbledore would have found it, Harry.
Harry repeated the argument he'd kept bringing out in favour of this theory.
Dumbledore said in front of me that he'd never assumed he knew all of Hogwarts' secrets. I'm telling you. It's the one place... Oi! You know who, then?
Harry shouted, goaded past endurance.
That there was one place that was really important to you-know-who. It was Hogwarts.
Oh, come on, scoffed Ron.
His school? Yeah, his school. It was his first real home. A place that meant he was special. It meant everything to him, even after he left.
This is you-know-who we're talking about, right? Not you, inquired Ron. He was tugging at the chain of the Horcrux around his neck. Harry was visited by the desire to seize it and throttle him.
You told us that you-know-who asked Dumbledore to give him a job after he left,
said Hermione.
That's right,
said Harry.
And Dumbledore thought he only wanted to come back to try and find something. Probably another Founder's object to make into another Horcrux.
Yeah, said Harry.
But he didn't get the job, did he?
Said Hermione.
So he never got the chance to find another Founder's object there and hide it in the school.
Okay then, said Harry, defeated. Forget Hogwarts. Without any other leads, they travelled into London and, hidden beneath the invisibility cloak, searched for the orphanage in which Voldemort had been raised. Hermione stole into a library and discovered from their records that the place had been demolished many years before. They visited its site and found a tower block of offices. I hope the lady, Castle's love, feels like singing a song tonight. It's fun singing along with another woman, huh? Castle is lovely to listen to, but she lifts my spirits up right. Well, my love, apparently you have a fan who would like you to sing tonight. Mel has decided that she is quite fond of your singing. Well, while they're in Albania, they could pop over to Greece too. It's true. The snake is the sixth. Try saying that 6 times fast. That would be. I'm about to eat Ron. Ron gets increasingly irritating through the last 3 books. He's an increasingly undesirable and unlikable character. There's a fantasy story about a man, legendary swords, and an awesome fight scene. Those familiar with Brandon Sanderson's work may find that I took inspiration from him for many of the names, though everything else is original. It's about 3 parts and 7 pages, plus a glossary. That's very good, it's hard work. Ronald Weasley, how dare you, Molly? Hex, hello, my friend, it's good to see you. Matty says he loves Una's singing too and her company. And Mel says only if she wants to. Never read nor watched Harry Potter, so this is new to me. I had read all of the ones up to the 6th book. After the 6th book, I stopped reading because I could tell that she was kind of done with the story and she was just sort of abusing her characters. So I lost interest, and then I never watched the 6th film, and I never watched the 7th movie either. Ron is kind of, how do I put this? Not playing with a full deck of marbles in the last 3 books, in my opinion. But that's also my opinion of him in the movies, too. Like the last movie, especially when he sees Hermione after a long while, and all he says is just, hey, yeah. That's to be sure. In Ron's defense in this book, it's because he wears the Horcrux. Fair, but he's also acting like a bit of a git before he even gets the Horcrux. Bit of a git, yeah. Okay, let's continue.
We could try digging in the foundations.
Hermione suggested half-heartedly.
He wouldn't have hidden a Horcrux here.
Harry said. He had known it all along. The orphanage had been a place that Voldemort had been determined to escape. He would never have hidden part of his soul there. Dumbledore had shown Harry that Voldemort sought grandeur or mystique in his hiding places. This dismal grey corner of London was far removed as you could imagine from Hogwarts, the Ministry, or the buildings like Gringotts, the Wizarding Bank, with its golden doors and marble floors. Even without any new ideas, they continued to move through the countryside, pitching the tent in a different place each night for security. Every morning they made sure that they removed all clues of their presence, then set off to find another lonely, secluded spot. Travelling by apparition to moored woods, to shadowy crevices of cliffs, to purple moors, gorse-covered mountainsides, and once a sheltered and pebbly cove. Every 12 hours or so they passed the Horcrux between them, as though they were playing some preserved, slow-motion game of pass the parcel, where they dreaded the music stopping because the reward was 12 hours of increased fear and anxiety. Harry's scar kept prickling. It happened most often, he noticed, when he was wearing the Horcrux. Sometimes he could not stop himself reacting to the pain. What did you see? Demanded Ron whenever he noticed Harry wince. A face, muttered Harry every time. Same face. The thief who stole from Grigorovich. And Ron would turn away, making no effort to hide his disappointment. Harry knew that Ron was hoping to hear news of his family or the rest of the Order of the Phoenix. But, after all, Harry, was not a television aerial. He could only see what Voldemort was thinking at the time, not tune in to whatever took his fancy. Apparently, Voldemort was dealing endlessly on the unknown youth with the gleeful face, whose name and whereabouts Harry felt sure Voldemort, who knew no better than he did. As Harry's scar continued to burn and the merry blonde-haired boy swam tantalizing in his memory, he learned to suppress any sign of pain or discomfort, but the other two showed nothing but impatience at the mention of the thief. He could not entirely blame them, when they were so desperate to lead on the Horcruxes. As the days stretched into weeks, Harry began to suspect that Ron and Hermione were having conversations without and about him. Several times they'd stop talking abruptly when Harry entered the tent, and twice he came accidentally upon them, huddled in a distance away, heads together and talking fast. Both times they fell silent when they realized he was approaching them and hastened to appear busy collecting wood or water. Harry could not help wondering whether they had only agreed to come on what now felt like a pointless and rambling journey because they thought he had some secret plan that they would learn in due course. Ron was making no effort to hide his bad mood, and Harry was starting to fear that Hermione, too, was disappointed by his poor leadership. In desperation, he tried to think further on Horcrux locations, but the only one that continued to occur to him was Hogwarts. And as neither of the others thought that this was likely, he stopped suggesting it. Autumn rolled over the countryside as they moved through it. They were now pitching a tent in mulches of fallen leaves. Natural mists joined those cast by the Dementors. Wind and rain added to their troubles. The fact that Hermione was getting better at identifying edible fungi could not altogether compensate for the continuing isolation, the lack of other people's company, and the total ignorance of what was going on in the war against Voldemort. "My mother," said Ron one night, as they sat in the tent on the riverbank in Wales, "can make food appear out of thin air." He prodded moodily at the lumps of charred grey fish on his plate. Harry glanced automatically at Ron's neck and saw, as he expected, the golden chain of Horcrux glinting there. He managed to fight down the impulse to swear at Ron, whose attitude would, he knew, improve slightly when the time came to take off the locket. "Your mother cannot produce food out of thin air," said Hermione. "No one can. Food is the first of the 5 principal exemption of Gam's law of elemental transfigure—" "Oh, speak English, can't you?" Ron said, prizing his fishbone between his teeth. "It's impossible to make good food out of nothing. You can summon it if you know where it is, you can transform it, and you can increase the quantity if you've already got some." "Well, don't bother increasing the quality of this. It's disgusting," said Ron. "Harry caught the fish and I did my best with it. I notice I'm always the one who ends up sorting out the food because I'm a girl, I suppose." "No, it's because you're supposed to be the best at magic," shot back Ron. Molly jumped up and bits of roast pike slid off her tin plate onto the floor. "You can do the cooking tomorrow, Ron. You can find the ingredients, try and charm them into something worth eating, and I'll sit here and pull faces and moan, and you can see how—" "Shut up!" Harry leapt to his feet, holding out both of his hands. "Shut up now!" Hermione looked outraged. "How can you side with him? He hardly ever does the cook—" "Hermione, be quiet, I hear someone." He was listening hard, his hands still raised, warning them not to talk. Then, over the rush and gush of the dark river beside them, he heard voices again. He looked around at the sneakoscope, but it was not moving. "You cast Muffalilato over us, right?" he whispered to Hermione. "I did everything," she whispered back. "Muffalilato, muggle repelling, and disillusionment charms, all of it. They shouldn't be able to hear or see us, whoever they are." Heavy scuffing and scraping noises, plus the sound of dislodged stones and twigs, told them that several people were clambering down the steep wooden slope that descended the narrow bank where they had pitched the tent. They drew their wands, waiting. The enchantments they had cast around themselves ought to be sufficient, in the near total darkness, to shield them from the notice of muggles or normal witches and wizards. If these were Death Eaters, then perhaps their defenses were about to be tested by dark magic for the first time. The voices became louder, but no more intelligible as the group of men reached the bank. Harry estimated that their owners were fewer than 20 feet away, but with cascading river made it impossible to tell for sure. Hermione snatched up the beaded bag and started to rummage, and after a few moments drew out 3 extendable ears and threw one to each Harry and Ron, who hastily inserted the ends of the flesh-coloured strings into their ears and fed the others out of the tent entrance. Within seconds, Harry heard a weary male voice. There ought to be a few salmon in here. You reckon? It's too early in the season. Accio summoned. There were several distinct splashes, and then the slapping sound of fish against flesh. Somebody grunted appreciatively. Harry pressed the extendable ear deeper into his own. Over the murmur of the river, he could make out more voices, but they were not speaking English or any human language he'd ever heard. It was a rough, unmelodious tongue, the string of rattling, guttural noises. And there seemed to be two speakers, one with a slightly lower, slower voice than the other. A fire danced into life on the other side of the canvas. Large shadows passed between the tent and flames. The delicious smell of baking salmon wafted tantalizing into their direction. Then came the clinking of cutlery on the plates, and the first man spoke again. Griphook, Groudnok.
Goblins.
Hermione mouthed to Harry, who nodded.
Thank you,
Said the goblins together in English.
So the three of you have been on the run how long?
Asked a new, mellow, and pleasant voice. It was vaguely familiar to Harry, who pictured a round-bellied, cheerful-faced man. 6, 7, I forgot, said the tired man. Met up with Griphook in the first couple of days and joined the forces with Gornuk not long after. Nice to have a bit of company. There was a pause, while nice scraped plates and tin mugs were picked up and replaced on the ground. What made you leave, Ted? Continued the man.
Well, I knew they were coming for me,
Replied the mellow-voiced Ted, and Harry suddenly knew who this was. Tonks's father.
Heard Death Eaters were in the area last week and decided I'd better run for it. Refused to register as a muggle-born on principle, see, and I knew it was a matter of time. I knew I'd have to leave it in the end. My wife should be okay, she's pure blood, and then I met Dean here a few days ago. Son?
Yeah, said another voice, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione recognized. Stared at each other, silent, but beside themselves with excitement. Sure they recognized the voice of Dean Thomas, their fellow Gryffindor. Muggle-born, eh? Asked the first man.
Not sure,
Said Dean.
my dad left my mom when I was a kid, and I've got no proof he was a wizard, though.
There was a silence for a while, except for the sounds of munching, and then Ted spoke again.
I've got to say, Dirk, I'm surprised to run into you. Pleased, but surprised. Word was you'd been caught.
I was, said Dirk.
I was halfway to Azkaban when I made a break for it. Stunned Dawlish and nicked his broom. It was easier than you'd think. I don't reckon he's quite right at the moment. Might be confounded. If so, I'd like to shake the hand of the witch or wizard who did it. Probably saved my life.
There was another pause in which the fire crackled and the river rushed on. Then Ted said,
And where do you fit in? I had the impression that goblins were for you-know-who on the whole.
You had a false impression,
said the higher voice to the goblins.
We take no sides. This is a wizard's war.
How come you're in hiding, then?
I deemed it prudent.
Said the deeper voiced goblin.
Having refused or considered an impertinent request, I could see that my personal safety was in jeopardy.
What did they ask you to do?
Asked Ted.
Duties ill befitting the dignity of my race,
Replied the goblin, his voice rougher and less human as he said it.
I'm not a house elf.
What about you, Griphook?
Similar reasons.
Said the higher voiced goblin.
Gringotts is no longer under the sole control of my race. I recognize no wizarding master.
He added something under his breath in gobbledygook, and Gornok laughed.
What's the joke?
asked Dean. He said, replied Dirk, that there are things wizards don't recognize, either. There was a short pause. I don't get it, said Dean.
I had my small revenge before I left,
said Griphook in English.
Good man, a goblin, I should say,
Amended Ted hastily.
Then managed to lock a Death Eater up in one of the old high-security vaults, I suppose.
If I had, the sword would have not helped him break out,
Replied Griphook. Gornock laughed again, and even Dirk gave a dry chuckle.
Dean and I are still missing something here,
said Ted.
Those, Severus Snape, though he does not know it,
said Griphook, and the two goblins roared with malicious laughter. Inside the tent, Harry's breathing was shallow with excitement. He and Hermione stared at each other, listening as hard as they could.
Didn't you hear about that, Ted? Said Dirk. About the kids who tried to steal Gryffindor's sword at Snape's office at Hogwarts?
The electric current seemed to course through Harry, jangling his every nerve as he stood rooted on the spot.
Never had a word, said Ted. Not in the Prophet, was it?
Hardly, chortled Dirk.
Griphook here told me.
He heard about it from Bill Weasley, who works for the bank. One of the kids who tried to take the sword was Bill's younger sister. Harry glanced toward Hermione and Ron, both of whom were clutching extendable ears as tightly as lifelines. She and a couple of friends got into Snape's office and smashed open the glass case, where he was apparently keeping the sword. Snape caught them as they were trying to smuggle it down the staircase.
God bless them,
said Ted.
What did they think? That they'd be able to use the sword on you-know-who or on Snape himself?
Well, whatever they thought they were going to do with it, Snape decided the sword wasn't safe where it was, said Dirk. A couple of days later, once he'd got a say-so from you-know-who, I imagine, he sent it down to London to be kept in Gringotts instead. The goblin started to laugh again.
I've still not seen the joke,
said Ted.
It's fake,
Rasped Griphook.
The sword of Gryffindor?
Oh, yes. It's a copy, an excellent copy. It is true, but was wizard made. The original was forged centuries ago by goblins and had certain properties only goblin-made armor possesses. Wherever the genuine sword of Gryffindor is, it is not in a vault at Gringotts Bank.
I see, said Ted. Then I take it you didn't bother telling the Death Eaters this?
I saw no reason to trouble them with the information,
said Griphook smugly, and now Ted and Dean joined in with Gornock and Dirk's laughter. Inside the tent, Harry closed his eyes, willing someone to ask the question he needed answered. After a minute that seemed 10, Dean obliged. He was, Harry remembered with a jolt, an ex-boyfriend of Ginny's too.
What happened with Jenny and the others? The ones who tried to steal it?
Oh, they were punished, and cruelly,
said Griphook indifferently.
They're okay, though,
said Ted quickly.
I mean, the Weasleys don't need any more of their kids injured, now do they?
They suffered no serious injury, as far as I am aware,
said Griphook.
Lucky for them,
said Ted.
With Snape's track record, I suppose we should be glad they're all still alive.
You don't believe that story, do you, Ted? Asked Dirk. You believe Snape killed Dumbledore?
Of course I do, said Ted. You're not going to sit there and tell me you think Potter had anything to do with it?
Hard to know what to believe these days, muttered Dirk.
I know Harry Potter,
said Dean.
and I reckon he's the real thing, the chosen one. whatever you call it. Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to believe. There's a lot would like to believe he's that, son, said Dirk, me included. But where is he? Run for it, by the looks of things. You'd think if he knew anything we don't, or had anything special going for him, he'd be out here right now fighting, rallying resistance, instead of hiding. And you know, the Prophet made a pretty good case against him. A prophet? Scoffed Ted. You deserve to be lied to if you're still reading that muck, Dirk. You want facts? Try the Quibbler. There was a sudden explosion of choking and retching, plus a good deal of thumping. By the sound of it, Dirk had swallowed a fishbone. At last he sputtered, The Quibbler! That lunatic rag of Zeno Lovegoods. Oh, it's not so much lunatic these days, said Ted. You want to give it a look? Zeno's printing all the stuff the Prophet's ignoring. Not a single mention of Crumplehorn Snorkex in the last issue. How long they'll let him get away with it, mind, I don't know, but Zeno says front page of every issue that any wizard who's against you-know-who ought to make helping Harry Potter their #1 priority. Odd to help a boy who's vanished off the face of the earth, said Dirk. Listen, the fact that they haven't caught him yet is one hell of an achievement, said Ted. I'd take tips from him gladly. That's what we're trying to do. Stay free, isn't it? Yeah, well, you've got a point there, said Dirk heavily. With all the whole of the ministry and all their informers looking for him, I'd expect him to have been caught by now. Mind, who's to say they haven't already caught and killed him without publicising it? Oh, don't say that, Dirk, murmured Ted. There was a long pause filled with more clattering of knives and forks. When they spoke again, it was to discuss whether they ought to sleep on the bank or retreat back up the wooded slope. Deciding the trees would give better cover, they extinguished their fire, then clambered back up the incline, their voices fading away. Harry, Ron, and Hermione reeled in the extendable years. Harry, who had found the need to remain silent increasingly difficult, the longer they eavesdropped, now found himself unable to say more than, Jenny, sword. I know, said Hermione. She lunged for the tiny beaded bag, this time sinking her arms in right up to the armpit. Odds in 5. All right, we'll take a quick reprieve. Oh! In Ron's defense, in the whole story, trying to be the youngest son in such a large family, then get a baby sister, an only girl inflicted on you. Instead of being a spoiled baby of the family, you pretty much end up the forgotten child. Well, and that's fair enough. All of his siblings get a significant more attention of him. Yeah, the Horcrux does make him a million times worse, to be sure. So the Horcrux is a git enhancer, apparently. Yeah, let's go ahead and run the ads for you all real quick. Everyone, I apologise if you're over on Twitch. We'll be back in 3 minutes. We run them so that you guys can have ads, not have ads for an hour. Twitch makes us do it, but I appreciate you for sticking through the portal in spite of the disturbance and interference. We'll be right back, friends. Sorry, I saw a notification and it distracted me instantaneously. Basically, an iPad kid over here. That reminds me, found out where eavesdropping comes from. See, my recollection of eavesdropping, and you can feel free to correct me if I'm incorrect, Cover, but my recollection of eavesdropping is that it comes from Freemason tradition.
Now there are some people who had said that it had to do with rain and sitting out underneath the eaves when it's raining, but my recollection was that it had to do with people getting pooped on underneath the eaves of secret lodges while they were trying to get secrets. Now I don't know if that's true, but that's what my brain remembers for some reason. I don't know why that's what my brain remembers, but that's what it remembers. Yeah, like hiding underneath the eaves and listening for secrets. My memory is that it had to do with birds pooping on them, but it might have been rain. That might have just been something I made up for fun. That you're hiding underneath the eaves and you get pooped on by a bird. That might might just be something I made up. It's wild how differently each of these main characters' actors' careers have gone. I'm so proud of each of them, to be honest. It really is. And probably my favorite of the lot of them is Rupert Grint. Rupert Grint and what's the kid who plays Malfoy? Well, he's not a kid anymore. He's a grown-ass man. But Tom Felton, yeah. Tom Felton and Rupert Grint are my two favorites. What is this thing? We've had people coming in over on YouTube now for the last 2 days, just coming in saying hi Sri Lankan, or saying hi I am Sri Lankan. What is happening? Hiding under the eaves of a house to stay dry, you'd be close enough to listen to what's going on inside. What is this joke? I don't know if it's a joke or if it's spam or what it is, but that's like the 9th person who's come in over through the YouTube portal and said something about Sri Lanka. I literally can't figure out how I thought Necromancer Demon Witch, Antimatter God, and Space Witch Demigoddess was a good idea for an antagonist in book 3. But this has to be the funnest I've had writing antagonists. That is, you're putting yourself in a major predicament with all of those. See, I like to work. There are two types of villains I like to work with. I like to work with very finite but specific power villains, because then the threat is clear. There's no ambiguity in what the threat is. It's very clear what the threat is going to be. And then natural calamity. Natural calamity. Thanks, Matty. I appreciate you. Might be something I made up. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. That's what the Greeks and the Romans did. Greek and Roman mythology is basically that, Bear. Most of Greek and Roman mythology that we have today is like Herodotus and Hedius and Ovidius. They were like, I know what the truth is, but what about the story? Well, and that's what I mean. It's like a natural calamity is the villain of the story, not necessarily evil. I try not to moralize my villains because I think that makes a not good villain when you moralize the villain. If you make the villain evil, then the villain is not a very good villain. You have to make the villain an antagonist rather than someone who is inherently evil. Because if something is just inherently evil, if it is just outright a force of evil, which is why Tolkien's work survives so well, because Sauron and Melkor Morgoth are literal forces of nature. They're like literally they are one is a Maiar and one is a Valar. They are literal forces of nature. So, do you have any tips on writing a fantasy setting in different eras? There are multiple time points in my story, and I want to illustrate how things were better in the past in this setting. It depends on what you mean. So if you're writing different time periods and you want that to be really apparent to the reader as well as to your main character, you have to make sure that the sensibilities of the people of the time have to be different, and they have to make sense. The biggest thing with writing anything is it has to make logical sense, even if it's outlandish, even if it's insane. Like you have dragon riding wizards who create gold out of spinning clouds into thread, right? Whatever it is, it needs to make logical sense in the world that you have created. It needs to be believable. And that's what good fantasy is, believable, even though you know it's impossible. Like, right, even though we know that there are no tiny little hobbit people who walked into a crack of fire and destroyed a ring that held the soul of essentially a Middle Earthian angel. It's believable. The story is believable because of the way that it's written. It's believable that Professor Tolkien found this manuscript called the Red Book of Westmarch and then transcribed it to us about a world and a thing that really happened. So whatever you're writing, it has to be believable. If you're writing different time periods in the same book, if it's all happening in the same book, like with time travel, first of all, time travel is very hard to write. Time travel is very hard to write, and it's even harder to write well. But if you are writing time travel, it's important that you accurately represent the sensibilities of those individuals, right? Like if I were to go back in time and say, pretend that the average person gave a damn in, say, 1500 about charity, right? Like nowadays we're very big about like being kind and giving to other people. But let's say I go back to the 1400s and suddenly everybody in this time period also has that same obsession with charity. That would be ridiculous because it's simply not true. It's simply not the case. So if I write those people from the 1400s as if they are in the 21st century, it becomes ridiculous. It becomes unbelievable because they weren't that way, and there's no real way that they could have been because they lacked the resources to do so in a time where literally you were working day and night just to survive. So if you are writing time travel, you need to make sure that your fantasy, even if they're not based on our time periods, they need to make sense within the overall diorama of what you're writing. Yay, waffles. What I'm doing is making it more personal to Barry's journey, so the antagonists are not just evil or overpowered in all respects, like godly, yes, but to the point of the story is meant to point out her empathy and ability to sway even beings who've gone astray. So I have Barry literally appealing to the true self in the monster, in a sense, like she did in book 1. If you do it well, it could be interesting. But again, when you look at the overwhelming power of, say, Sauron or Morgoth from Lord of the Rings, the reason why they're believable is because they're like with Morgoth, there is this intervention by the other Valar. The elves and the dwarves and the eagles, or the elves and the dwarves and the humans, they don't really have a chance against Morgoth and his armies. But when we then get the Valar intervening on their behalf and sending help, then they persevere. Then they are able to overcome. But that intervention has to happen in order for it to work, and it's a very believable progress of events. And it's the same thing with Sauron. Now, Sauron is nowhere near as powerful as Morgoth, but we get this very believable idea that he made these rings. He convinced these rings to be made by very powerful individuals that he then distributed to other powerful individuals so that they would believe they would gain more power from doing so. That's believable. That is a believable chain of events. Cabo Forge, hello, good to see you. I did see your comment. I don't know if you saw my response to it, but I did see it. I'm going to add your request to the roster to get a talk out. This may sound crazy, but I've never read Lord of the Rings. No, that's alright. A lot of people haven't, and we're very obsessed with it here. Jazz, hello, welcome in. It's good to see you, love. Thank you for gifting a sub to Steve and stuff. I appreciate that. Lord of the Rings is a little bit difficult to enjoy your Moon Harvest side of it. Lord of the Rings is hard to read because a lot of people will read The Hobbit and then read The Lord of the Rings and expect them to be the same. Hobbit is a children's storybook. Lord of the Rings is historical fiction. Well met indeed. I hope your trip to see the boys was good. Prolio says, I went in depth on a single character who is just an architect and showed his perspective on the cities and cultures from that hands-on perspective. Luckily, there's no time travel in my story. There are immortal characters who have lived in both time points, though these flashbacks serve mostly to unravel the major conspiracies and stuff that lead our character to this point. It serves as fuel for the personal motivations of the elder age of the firefighters and masters of this story. Okay, so then basically you want to make sure that you note the change in values and the change in sensibilities as time goes on. Wonderful and really cold. It's finally getting colder down here, but it's at the same time, we're still in the 70s. It's ridiculous. Is that what the subtitle said, Bear? I've mentioned how my third or fourth grade teacher inadvertently turned me off from writing. But I've remembered that probably around the same time I told my mom I wanted to be a writer, and she told me there wasn't any money in being a writer. So it was that combo that really caused me to stop trying before I ever really had a chance. Well, and that's fair. It is difficult for writers to earn money. The lady and I, we do more than 300 Storytime videos a year. And we're both writing books for all of you, and we do this. We do live storytelling. And it is very difficult to make good money doing these things. But if you do it in earnest, people will come for what you have to do it from the standpoint of, I want to make something that is spectacular and magical. I don't want to prove a point. I don't want to try and make people believe something other than that my story could have happened. If you go into everything you write with that in mind, it is possible to make something that is beloved enough that you can make money at it. But it's hard. The lady and I have spent the last 4 years with belts cinched down doing what we do, because we don't sell things. The tavern is open to everyone, and we don't want to ever make it that there is a price barrier to people being able to enjoy what we do. But when we put out books, obviously we'll sell the books for whatever we sell the books for, and we'll make very special things every now and again that you guys are able to get. But our job is not to sell you things. Our job is to tell you stories. That's the whole point. There's lots of ways to earn money from writing. Yeah, if you're just strictly writing fiction, it is difficult. But there are lots of different ways that you can write and make money, to be sure, as a professional writer. I'm also trying to brainstorm magic power, but that's a whole other debacle. Magic systems are difficult, but if you nail it, it's worth putting the time into, to be sure. Been out and about. Yes, you have. Been on your travels. The key is to put something out for your viewers and fans consistently and for a very long time, more or less. And it has to be good. Like, it's not even necessarily high quality, because what we do isn't necessarily very high quality. But I make sure that I find fun and unique stories, or I at least try to make things that I know people find boring exciting. Because I know a lot of people sat in history class and fell asleep. So I try to take those same stories and bring them to you in an exciting way. And not lie to you about them, but tell you the stories as they would have been told in the time. That's what traditional storytelling is. That's what classical storytelling is to tell the stories, not to lie, which is what I was talking about with like the Greeks and the Romans. They love to turn the stories into lies, but to make them more exciting. Not necessarily because they were trying to lie, but like Ovidius, he dramatized everything in the Greek mythos, and because of that, we've lost a lot of the threads of it. But if you make something that is good, and you make it with the intention of saying, I want to make something that people will experience as magical and that they'll enjoy. And I want it to be something that is going to carry people away and give them that feeling of whimsy. If that is your goal in writing a thing, and you really put the effort into making sure it is that thing, whether it's what we do, which is putting out these story times, which again we put one out almost every single day, then it becomes a much bigger thing. But you have to be consistent, and you have to put. We put the patrons of the tavern above everybody else. Now, admittedly, I'm often late to these lives, but that's because I'm always making things, and I have to make the things that are going to be around for a little bit longer. So for the vague idea to explain, my necromancer demon literally wants to kill and raise an army of the dead to make... I lost what Matty was saying. Oh. To make her children because my angel race killed her own children. I see. You and the lady are doing a fantastic job. Well, thank you, Tyson. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. I had that absolutely writing my recent story. I just want people to enjoy it and get immersed for a short time. That's really all there is. That's really all there is. Other than when I've been traveling interstate or unwell, I'm pretty sure I've been in every story time over the last 2 years or more. You have. I think you've only missed 2 or 3 in that entire time, Bear. And again, for all of you who show up to the videos and these things that the lady and I do, you are the reason why we're able to do this. And I don't tell you guys that the lady and I, like that we've lived very sparsely the last few years to make anybody feel sorry for us. It's for anybody who's planning on doing something like this. You have to understand that if you want to build credibility with people, if you want to make something spectacular without selling stuff to people, which, again, we sell almost nothing, you have to be willing to sacrifice in order to do that. It's taken us a very long time to reach as many people as we have. And so you have to have a realistic expectation. You're not going to be able to live super comfortably if you're planning on making something. You have to sleep on some entrepreneurs say. You have to sleep on the floor of your office, if you're going to make the thing. I have run a marathon before you run the race on social media. You have to run the marathon before you run the race on social media. Absolutely. Absolutely the truth. I wish I'd have known that 27 years ago. Well, it's never too late to start, I'll tell you that. I'm an old man, and I've just now started doing what I do now, so... I made 2 magic systems. One is based on voodoo, the other is based on nuclear fission. Tried very hard to make a unique magic system but it comes sort of an amorphous vibe-based power system. I'm getting the finale of my book, and the main character hasn't been improving on his magic since the previous book. All the other characters have, but I don't know where to start, or even what I want for him. It's a hard thing to do, to consider a whole world inside of your head. But you'll get there. Just give it the time that it needs. Don't try to rush yourself. Elsie and I find your storytelling very relaxing and conducive to sleep. I'm glad, Esther. That's actually a fine compliment for a storyteller. But every character has made consistent progress in this book, and I'm just stuck on one character. Again, just give it time and put it in front of fresh eyes if you need to. That'll help. I want to make stories that people connect to any degree, maybe inspire too. If you make good things, they will typically inspire people, or so I've been told. I've no first-hand experience in this. The hard part, like Castle mentioned, is that fiction writing is hard to make money from. If you just want to make money from writing, there are plenty of ways to do it. The cool way to make money I found off fiction, though, is writing homebrew D&D modules to sell. I hadn't even considered that, Pop. That's actually a good idea. I have been asked many times why I do not sell my wildlife photographs. I've explained that I do so because I'm passionate about it. See, there you go. My brother's a very fine photographer as well. This talk of magic system makes me worry if my magic system is okay. Oh no, we're going to send Matty into another frenzy of revising. Wandering Wanderer, hello, hail my friend, welcome in. I'm just now getting back to reading. I should have been back to reading 15 minutes ago, but I went off on a tangent. What is that? Oh. Waffles. I regularly get tabletop games from Indie Guy on itch.io. I was surprised they have any, but that stuff is indeed profitable. Well, see, there you go. That's a way to do it. All right, let's finish. We've only got 6 pages left in this chapter, so let's get it done.
Here we are,
She said between gritted teeth, and she pulled at something that was evidently in the depths of the bag. Slowly, the edge of an ornate picture frame came into sight. Harry hurried to help her as they lifted the empty portrait of Phineas Nigellus free of Hermione's bag. She kept her wand pointed at it, ready to cast any spell at any moment.
if somebody really swapped the real sword for a fake while it was in Dumbledore's office,
She panted as she propped the painting against the side of the tent.
Phineas Nigellus will have seen it happen. He hangs right beside the case.
Unless he was asleep, said Harry. But he still held his breath as Hermione knelt down in front of the empty canvas. Her wand directed at the centre, and she cleared her throat and then said,
Phineas Nigellus.
Nothing happened.
Phineas Nigellus.
Said Hermione again.
Professor Black, please, could we talk to you? Please.
Please always helps, said a cold... Oh, hang on. Please always helps, said a cold, snide voice, and Phineas Nigellus slid into his portrait at once, and Hermione cried,
Obscuro!
A black blindfold appeared over Phineas Nigellus's clever dark eyes, causing him to bump into the frame and shriek with pain. What? How dare you? What are you?
I'm very sorry, Professor Black,
said Hermione.
but this is a necessary precaution.
Remove this edition at once! Remove it, I say! You're ruining a great work of art! Where am I? What is going on?
Never mind where you are.
Oh, never mind where you are, said Harry, and Phineas Nigellus froze, abandoning his attempts to peel off the painted blindfold. Could that quite possibly be the voice of the elusive Mr. Potter? Maybe, said Harry, knowing that this would keep Phineas Nigellus's interest. We've got a couple of questions for you about the Sword of Gryffindor. Ah, said Phineas Nigellus, now turning his head this way and that in an effort to catch sight of Harry. Yes, that silly girl acted most unwisely there. Shut up about my sister, Ron said roughly. Phineas Nigellus raised a supercilious eyebrow. Who else is here? He asked, turning his head from side to side. Your tone displeases me. The girl and her friends were foolhardy in the extreme, thieving from the headmaster. They weren't thieving, said Harry. Their sword isn't Snape's. It belongs to Professor Snape's school, said Phineas Nigellus. Bless you, my darling. Exactly what claim did Weasley girl have to put upon it? She deserved a punishment, as did that idiot Longbottom and Lovegood Oddity.
Neville's not an idiot and Luna's not an oddity,
said Hermione. Where am I? Repeated Nigellus, starting to wrestle with the blindfold again. Where have you brought me? Why have you removed me from the house of my forebearers? Never mind that. How did Snape punish Ginny, Neville, and Luna? Asked Harry urgently. Professor Snape sent them to the Forbidden Forest to do some work for the oaf Hagrid.
Hagrid is not an oaf,
said Hermione shrilly. And Snape might have thought that was a punishment, said Harry. But Ginny, Neville, and Luna probably had a good laugh with Hagrid. The Forbidden Forest. They've faced plenty worse than the Forbidden Forest. Big deal. He felt relieved. He had been imagining the horrors, the Cruciatus Curse at the very least.
What we really wanted to know, Professor Black, is whether anyone has taken out the sword at all. Maybe it's been taken away for cleaning or for something. Phineas Nigellus paused again in his struggle to free his eyes and sniggered. Muggle-borns, he said. Goblin-made armor does not require cleaning, simple girl. The goblin silver repels mundane dirt, imbibing only that which strengthens it. Don't call Hermione simple, said Harry. I grow weary of contradictions, said Phineas Nigelus. Perhaps it is time for me to return to the headmaster's office. Still blindfolded, he began groping the side of his frame, trying to feel his way out of his picture and back into the one at Hogwarts. Harry had a sudden inspiration. Dumbledore, can you bring us Dumbledore? I beg your pardon, asked Phineas Nigelus. Professor Dumbledore's portrait. Could you bring him along here, into yours? Phineas Nigelus turned his face in the direction of Harry's voice. Evidently, it is not only Muggle-borns who are ignorant, Potter. The portraits of Hogwarts may commune with each other, but they cannot travel outside of the castle, except to visit a painting of themselves hanging elsewhere. Dumbledore cannot come here with me, and after the treatment I have received at your hands, I can assure you that I shall not be making a return visit. Slightly crestfallen, Harry watched Phineas redouble his attempts to leave the frame. Professor Black, said Hermione, couldn't you tell us, please, when was the last time the sword was taken out of its case? Before Ginny took it out, I mean. Phineas snorted impatiently. I believe the last time I saw the sword of Gryffindor leave its case was when Professor Dumbledore used it to break open a ring. Hermione whipped around to look at Harry. Neither of them dared say more in front of Phineas Nigelus, who had at last managed to locate the exit. Well, good night to you, he said a little waspishly, and he began to move out of sight again. Only the edge of his hat brim remained in view when Harry gave a sudden shout. Wait! Have you told Snape that you saw us? Phineas Nigelus stuck his blindfolded head back into the picture.
Yeah.
Professor Snape has more important things on his mind than the many eccentricities of Albus Dumbledore. Goodbye, Potter. And with that, he vanished completely, leaving behind him nothing but the murky backdrop. Harry, cried Hermione. Oh no, Harry shouted. Unable to contain himself, he punched the air. It was more than he had dared to hope for. He strode up and down the tent, feeling that he could run a mile. He did not even feel hungry anymore. Hermione was squashing Phineas Nigelus's portrait back into the beaded bag. When she had fastened the clasp and threw the bag aside and raised a shining face to Harry. The sword can destroy Horcruxes. Goblin-made blades imbibe only that which strengthens them. Harry, that sword's impregnated with basilisk venom. And Dumbledore didn't give it to me because he still needed it. He wanted to use it on the locket. And he must have been worried, realised that they wouldn't let you have it if he put it in his will. So he made a copy and put the fake in the glass case. But he left the real one where? They gazed at each other. Harry felt that the answer was dangling invisibly in the air above them, tantalizingly close. Why hadn't Dumbledore told him? Or had he, in fact, told Harry, but Harry had not realised it at the time. Think, she whispered. Think, where would he have left it? Not Hogwarts, said Harry, resuming his pace. Somewhere in Hogsmeade, suggested Hermione. The Shrieking Shark, said Harry. Nobody ever goes there. But Snape knows how to get in. Wouldn't that be a bit risky? Dumbledore trusted Snape, Harry reminded her. Not enough to tell him he'd swapped the swords, said Hermione. Yeah, you're right, said Harry, and he felt even more cheered at the thought that Dumbledore had had some reservations, however faint, about Snape's trustworthiness. So, how would he have hidden the sword well away from Hogsmeade then? What do you reckon, Ron? Ron!
Harry looked around. For one bewildered moment, he thought that Ron had left the tent, then realized that Ron was lying in the shadow of a lower bunk looking stony. "Oh, remember me, have you?" he said. "What?" Ron snorted as he stared at the underside of the upper bunk. "You two carry on. Don't let me spoil your fun." It's Nigelus. What was I saying? I thought that's what I did say, but if I didn't, I apologize. What time is it by you, friend? We are presently in the late of the night. It is 10 o'clock. I just realized it's been over a decade since I read this series. Too bad about the author. I'd never actually read this book. Because, I didn't enjoy Rowling's writing to begin with, because she's just not a very skilled writer. Beheaded bag, yeah. But again, by the time she got to book 6, she was just really torturing her characters. So I didn't particularly care about it. Tassie is a beautiful country. I got to make there some awesome snaps from up there. Oh, Nigelus. I've been saying Nigelus. Nigelus. I see. Where was I? Perplexed, Harry looked at Hermione for help, but she shook her head, apparently as nonplussed as he was. "What's the problem?" asked Harry. "Problem? There's no problem," said Ron, still refusing to look at Harry. "Not according to you, anyway." There were several plunks on the canvas over their head. It had started to rain. "Well, you've obviously got a problem," said Harry. "Spit it out, will you?" Ron swung his long legs off the bed and sat up. He looked mean, unlike himself. "All right, I'll spit it out. Don't expect me to skip up and down the tent because there's some other damn thing we've got to find. Just add it to the list of stuff you don't know." "I don't know," repeated Harry. "I don't know?" Plunk, plunk, plunk. The rain was falling harder and harder and heavier. It pattered on the leaf-strewn bank all around them and on the river, chattering through the dark. Dread doused Harry's jubilation. Ron was saying exactly what he had suspected and feared him to be thinking. "It's not like I'm not having the time of my life here," said Ron. "You know, with my arm mangled and nothing to eat and freezing my backside off every night. I just hoped, after we'd been running around for weeks, we'd have achieved something." "Ron," said Hermione, but in such a quiet voice that Ron pretended not to have heard it. Over the loud tattoo, the rain was now beating on the tent. "I thought you knew what you signed up for," said Harry. "Yeah, I thought I did too." "So what part of this isn't living up to your expectations?" asked Harry. Anger was coming to his defense now. "Did you think we'd just be staying in five-star hotels, finding a Horcrux every other day? Did you think you'd be back with Mummy by Christmas?" "We thought you knew what you were doing," shouted Ron, standing up. His words pierced Harry like scalding knives. "We thought Dumbledore had told you what to do. We thought you had a real plan." "Ron!" said Hermione, this time clearly audible over the rain and thundering on the tent roof, but again he ignored her. "Well, sorry to let you down," said Harry, his voice quite calm, even though he felt hollow and inadequate. "But I've been straight with you from the start. I told you everything Dumbledore told me. And in case you haven't noticed, we found one Horcrux. Yeah, and we're about as near getting rid of it as we are finding the rest of them. Nowhere effing near, in other words." "Take the locket off, Ron," Hermione said, her voice unusually high. "Please take it off. You wouldn't be talking like this if you hadn't been wearing it all day." "Yeah, he would," said Harry, who did not want excuses made for Ron. Do you think I haven't noticed the two of you whispering behind my back? Do you think I didn't guess you were thinking this stuff?" "Harry, we weren't." "Don't lie," Ron hurled at her. "You said it too. You said you were disappointed. You said you thought
he had a bit more to go on than... I didn't say it like that. Harry, I didn't, she cried.
The rain was pounding the tent, tears were pouring down Hermione's face, and the excitement of a few minutes before had vanished as if it had never been. A short-lived firework that flared and died, leaving everything dark, wet, and cold. The sword of Gryffindor was hidden, they knew not where, and they were 3 teenagers in a tent whose only achievement was not yet to be dead.
So why are you still here?
Harry asked Ron.
Search me,
Said Ron.
and go home then.
Said Harry.
Yeah, maybe I will.
Shouted Ron, and he took several steps towards Harry, who didn't back away.
Didn't you hear what they said about my sister? But you don't give a rat's fart, do you? It's only the Forbidden Forest. Harry, our faced worst Potter, doesn't care what happens to her in here. Well, I do. All right? Giant spotters and mental stuff. I was only saying, she was with the others and they were with Hagrid. Yeah, I get it. You don't care. And what about the rest of my family? The Weasleys don't need another injured kid. Didn't you hear that? Yeah, not bothered what it meant, though. Ron, said Hermione, forcing her way between them. I don't think it means anything has happened. Anything we don't know about. Think. Ron, Bill's already scarred. Plenty of people must have seen that George has lost an ear by now. You're supposed to be on your deathbed with Spattergoid. I'm sure that's all he meant. Oh, you're sure, are you? Right then. Well, I won't bother myself about them. It's all right for you two, isn't it? With your parents safely out of the way. My parents are dead, bellowed Harry. And mine could be going the same way, yelled Ron. Then go, roared Harry. Go back to them. Pretend you've got over Spattergoid and Mummy will feed you up and down.
Ron made a sudden movement and Harry reacted. But before either one was clear of their pockets, Hermione had raised her own.
Potato,
she cried, and an invisible shield expanded between her and Harry, and on the other side, Ron on the other. All of them were forced backwards a few steps by the strength of the spell, and Harry and Ron glared at each other from either side of the transparent barrier as though they were seeing each other clearly for the first time. Harry felt a corrosive hatred towards Ron. Something had broken between them.
Leave the Horcrux,
Harry said. Ron wrenched the chain from over his head and cast the locket into a nearby chair. He turned to Hermione.
What are you doing? What do you mean? Are you staying or what?
She looked anguished.
Yes, I'm staying, Ron. We said we'd go with Harry. We said we'd help.
I get it. You chose him.
No, Ron, please. Come back. Come back.
She was impeded by her own shield charm. By the time she'd removed it, he'd already stormed into the night. And he stood quite still and silent, listening to her sobbing and calling Ron's name amongst the trees. After a few minutes, she returned, her sopping hair plastered to her face.
He's gone, disapparated.
She threw herself into a chair, curled up, and started to cry. And he felt dazed. He stooped, picked up the Horcrux, and placed it around his own neck. He dragged blankets off of Ron's bunk and threw them over Hermione. Then he climbed into his own bed and stared up at the dark canvas roof, listening to the pounding of the rain. And so ends chapter 15 of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Ah, teen angst, I don't miss that. No, I don't either. I don't know that I ever really had it. 12:06 a.m. for me. Well, we're just about ended up then, isn't it about time? Of course, Jazz, it's good to see you. I'm glad you dropped in. I'm glad your trip went well. All right, friends, what do you say we do a song or two? We'll do 2 songs. And then I will send you all off into the night. about time for all of you to be getting off to bed, or at least most of you to be getting off to bed. Our Australian friends are still in the middle of their day. But we'll get the rest of us off to bed, and the lady and I will get back to our story crafting. Leave for Johnny. We can do Leave for Johnny. That's a fine one. And you know what? I think that Bear had requested Greenfields of France sometime back, but we missed Storytime that day because of technical difficulties. 4:14 p.m. Friday here, Castle. Yes, you guys are still in the middle of your it's your early evening, late afternoon for our Australian friends. Thank you again for a wonderful storytelling session. Of course, Belinda, always a pleasure. I'm glad that you were able to come in. I suppose that's fair, Bethany. I suppose that's fair. I don't know that it was necessarily teen angst as much as it was idiocy. But I will accept that. I will accept that judgment. All right. So we had Leave for Johnny, and Bear a while back had requested Greenfields of France. So I think we'll do Greenfields of France. Thank you, Castle, for the wonderful storytelling. Elsie and I fell asleep for a moment. Wonderful. Glad to hear it. Okay. We'll do Greenfields of France first, and then we'll end off on Leave for Johnny. Who is to say teen angst isn't anything other than teen idiocy? Again, fair enough. I accept the judgment. I accept the judgment. Okay, I need to know to shut my head up. My magic system is okay, right? I'll have to go back and look it over for you, Matty. It's not something that I paid a whole lot of attention to. If you want to describe it for me in 20 words or less, I'll give you an assessment right here. Sorry, head is in anxious mode since my mom talked about my grandma. That's all right. That's all right. Do what you got to do. Have to be young and stupid to become old and wise. It's fair enough. Either that or you have to know someone who's old and wise, who's willing to guide you to not becoming old and stupid. It's at least how we look at it in my family. Oh, that was for Remembrance Day of Veterans Day, you called it and say, well, we did miss it, so why not? We didn't get to do Storytime on Veterans Day and Remembrance Day, so we'll do a song for all of those who've fought and died for us. I like Greenfields of France anyways, it's a good song. Oh, how do you do, young Willie McBride? Do you mind if I sit here down by your graveside and rest for a while in the warm summer sun? I've been walking all day and I'm nearly done. And I see by your gravestone you were only 19 when you joined the great fallen in 1916. Well, I hope you died quick and I hope you died clean. Oh, Willie McBride, was it slow and obscene? Did they beat the drums slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? And did you leave a wife or a sweetheart behind? In some loyal heart is your memory enshrined. And though you died back in 1916, to that loyal heart you're forever 19. Or are you a stranger without even a name? forever enshrined behind some old glass pane, in an old photograph torn, tattered and stained, and faded to yellow in a brown leather frame. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last host and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? The sun shining down on these green fields of France. The warm winds blows gently and the red poppies dance. The trenches have vanished long under the plough. No gas, no barbed wire, no sun, no guns firing now. But here in this graveyard that's still no man's land, the countless white crosses in mute witness stand to man's blind indifference to his fellow man, and a whole generation were butchered and damned. Did they beat the drum slowly? Did they play the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? And I can't help but wonder, no Willie McBride, do all those who lie here know why that they died? Did they really believe them when they told them the cause? Did they really believe that this war would end wars? Well, the suffering, the sorrow, the glory, the shame, the killing, the dying, it was all done in vain. Oh, Willie McBride, it all happened again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Did they beat the drums slowly? Did they pay the fife lowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Flowers of the Forest, what a lament, played at my grandpa's and my mom's funeral services. Grandma got 500 miles by the Proclaimers as per her request. That's a hell of a one. That's a hell of a one. Would not that just typo fat thumbs? I is what I meant to say. Oh, I see. I was part of a longer conversation. In 20-ish words, it's a complex magic system, so 20 words is hard as hell. A universe shaped by aura, where the wielders harness elements and enchantments through rare materials, divine echoes, amplifiers, and inherited cosmic bonds. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's difficult to make something that complex make sense. The more complex your magic system is, the more difficult it is to make it make sense for the reader. Last Post and Flowers of the Forest are two I'd like at my funeral. Not sure what poems I'd like though. Oh, there are quite a few that are appropriate for the ending of our days. Alright, let's do... Leave her, Johnny. Bear, thank you kindly for the bits, my friend. Enjoy your black dragon needs some house brew there. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated, brother. Thank you kindly. Your generosity is deeply appreciated, my friend. to a mouse. It's a good one. Here we go. I'm gonna mute the music. I just realized it's still going. I thought I heard the old man say, "Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Tomorrow ye will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, the wind was foul and the sea ran high. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. She shipped it green and none went by, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, I hate to sail on this rotten tub. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. No grog allowed and rotten grub, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. We swear by our oath, for want of more. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. But now we're through, so we'll go on shore, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Thank you for the songs, my friends. Absolutely always lovely to share them with you. One way or another, I'm going out with a bang. I decided a while ago that I don't want a funeral if those I leave behind feel they need to do something. Told my wife to just find a pub and have a few bevies to say goodbye. We always do festivals in my family. We throw festivals. We celebrate the dead and the lives that they lived at festivals. And I've always been very attached to that idea. The American and the Western idea of last rites and funerals is very somber, and I don't care for it. I like the idea of celebrating a person. We can be sad, of course, and we can tell sad stories and all of that, but it should be done in the notion of remembrance. It should be done as, and we're so glad that we got to have him for as long as we did. We got to have her for as long as we did, and all the spectacular things that they gave us. It's a beautiful thing. And I don't like that somberness about it. Good night, Esther. Rest well. I hope you rise tomorrow ready to face the day. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening. Something similar, Kova. It's more akin. everyone attends the burial and then everyone prepares food together is how we do it in my family. I don't know if Irish as a broader culture. I know that it's traditionally practiced in a lot of Celtic cultures. Like it's a little bit, it's kind of done in Cornwall. Um, Sort of something similar is done in Wales. So I think that all of the sort of Celtic cultures have a similar way of approaching it. But I couldn't say for sure whether broader Irish culture does nowadays. Um, but what we do is everyone attends the burial, and then we all make food together, and then we have a bit of a festival afterwards. Of course, Teresa, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. All right, my friends, I think it's time that I let you go free. If you are watching from anywhere but the Twitch portal, then you're free to go. For everyone else, for those on Twitch, we're going to be heading out. For everyone who tipped the tavern keeper tonight, thank you kindly. For those of you who watch and share all of the things the lady and I do, you're quite the reason why we're able to do it, and we appreciate you for it. All of the support you guys give is absolutely spectacular. So if you decide to give a little bit of coin to the tavern keepers, that's appreciated. And if you decide to give a little bit of time, that's appreciated. It means the world to us, and just you being here and enjoying what we do is a spectacular thing. And while we must part now, and that is a sad thing, we will once again gather the next time that you all seek a story here in the tavern. So until then, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, and I will see you next time. Have a good night, my friends.